for history.
Oh my God! There's no way!
Fabiano on smiling. This is immortality stuff.
MVL is on the doorstep here. Look at the confidence that he's playing with. It's all over.
12 seconds.
G7.
Maxime Vachier-Lagrave is the winner of the CrunchLabs Masters.
Black simply takes and goes rook d1 and picks up white's bishop, and he'll let his clock run out. Alexander Grischuk. He does it.
Wow, 1 second and he's blundered Duda. He's just gone from winning to losing in one move. This is just madness.
Magnus Magic. Done it again.
When you need to win against Magnus Carlsen, not sure what to recommend.
This is just knockout.
Is he trying for a stalemate trap there?
That was so sneaky.
Really, y'all don't know this, y'all in danger, I'm a threat.
Checkmate in one coming in. These are the last.
Oh, and he's losing!
And Magnus cannot believe it. He's so mad at himself.
Wow, you never see this. Absolute hats off. When the pieces are flying, you never know what's going to happen. But today, we do know we have Magnus Carlsen, Alireza Firouzja. I'm Robert Hess. Alongside me is Grandmaster David Howell. This is the Julius Baer Generation Cup. And today, we have the grand final. David, Magnus, Alireza. There's so much storied history between these two. This is going to be another epic match for the history books.
That's right, a great rivalry that's really stepped up a level in 2024, Robert. It's going to be an honor to cover the final day of the regular season of the Champions Chess Tour with you here, and we're expecting fireworks. Firouzja is in a must-win situation, but he has done it before against Magnus. He's got a great track record this year, and I think, the fans are just excited as we are. The game's surely gonna live up to expectations.
Well, it's amazing to see Alireza elevate his game in this way. But let's take care of some logistical things first. This is a series, 4 events rather, and these players have already qualified, even heading in to the 4th and final leg. Magnus Carlsen, Alireza Firouzja, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, they all won separate tournaments. Jan Nepomniachtchi did well enough across the first 3 to qualify heading into the Julius Baer Generation Cup. And as we turn the page, David, these 4 players that we see here, Levon Aronian, he was in the top division, but Wesley, Vincent, Dennis, they actually were not in Division 1 here in the Julius Baer Generation Cup, but they've done well throughout the season.
That's right. We have Division 2, we have Division 3. We'll actually talk a lot about that today. But those players there, they've all earned their spots in different manners. And yeah, I can't wait for those tour finals in Oslo in December. It's sure to be fantastic. That being said, Robert, we do have the 2 standout players of the whole season, Magnus Carlsen and Alireza Firouzja, taking center stage today.
Oh, yes, we do. And as you were noting, you do get those other divisions and mouth-watering matchups there. We will, of course, talk about Vincent Keimer against Fabiano Caruana in the 3rd division. And we have Wesley So versus Denis Lazovic, 2 other finalists in Division 2. But let's focus our attention where it belongs. Because when Magnus Carlsen plays against Alireza Firouzja, the world watches. And we already saw them square off, David, in the winner's final. Magnus, he won 2.5, 1.5. And that was every bit as close as the score would indicate. And that match, it was absolutely wild.
It was crazy, Robert. Magnus might have emerged victorious a few days ago, but the games, they were topsy-turvy. We even saw Magnus hang his queen at some point, which wasn't seen by Firouzja. And I'm hoping for more of the same today. These two, they faced off so many times this year. The Speed Chess Championship as well was one-sided in Magnus's favor. So maybe revenge on the mind for Firouzja. Either way, I'm excited. I hope you are too, Robert.
Oh, I definitely am, because for Alireza Firouzja, revenge is on his mind as well, because in the Speed Chess Championship, that was a one-sided demolition, but we're not talking about blitz and bullet. Today, we talk about rapid, and David, as you were mentioning, throughout 2024, Alireza Firouzja, he's punching just as well as Magnus Carlsen throughout the Champions Chess Tour.
Yeah, it is rare to see anyone fight toe-to-toe with Magnus Carlsen. We're used to Magnus being dominant over the years, but these are the results in the Champions Chess Tour this year. We see that overall rapid head-to-head, Magnus is ahead there. Magnus has the lead, 25 wins to 14, but lower down we see 5 matches throughout the 2024 Champions Chess Tour season. Firouzja leading, 3 wins to Magnus's 2. And he's done it on the biggest of stages. He's done it in a final before in the Chess.com Classic. was 2 matches in a row. He won the grand final reset for Firouzja, so he'll be aiming to take inspiration from that day.
And that's what I'm noticing there in the GF, the grand final. Firouzja, he won the CrunchLabs Masters. He also won the Chess.com Classic. Sure, in the CrunchLabs Masters, it was Magnus who won that reset. But Alireza, he rises to the occasion. He is willing to take on all challengers. So it has been fantastic to see him go toe-to-toe with Magnus Carlsen. But as we are talking about the Julius Baer Generation Cup as the champion chess tour as a whole, it's not just about the top division. We have so many strong grandmasters throughout all 3 divisions, and as we dive into Division 2, it is 2 familiar names, household names at this point. Wesley So, a longtime elite player, but Denis Lazovic, the teenager, we are familiar with him, David, and yet I'm still pretty surprised and inspired by his success.
Yeah, it is really inspiring. Denis Lazovic hasn't had too many opportunities to play classical over-the-board chess against the best players in the world, but in Rapid, especially online, he's always there, Mr. Consistent, and it's a real clash of the generations here at the Julius Baer Generation Cup as we see Wesley So take on the teenager. Same, of course, in Division 1 with Magnus holding up the end there for the older generation against the youngsters who are coming and who have been so impressive this year.
And we see Denis Lazovic, he has that L in parentheses. That means he lost a match earlier in the competition against Jose Martinez. He will need to win both the grand final and then get to a reset and win that too. But Wesley So, he kind of is like the OG Denis Lazovic in a way. They have a very similar style. It's this positional squeeze on full display when these two go at it.
That's right. We're sure to see some long endgame grinds here. We're sure to see some really cagey positional play where both players are trying to stamp their authority on these really long, cagey games. So, yeah, I'm not sure what to expect. Wesley will start as the favorite with that extra life, but Denis has been there. He has picked up so much experience this year, and he'll be aiming to cause an upset as he prepares for the Oslo finals.
And Denis the Menace, as I like to call him, he has been a menace throughout the Champions Chess Tour, but so is Fabiano Caruana, at least in Division 3. We will not see him in Oslo, Norway, but we will see his opponent, Vincent Keimer, and these two have seen each other before. Look there in the winners' semifinals. Caruana, 2.5, Keimer half, and David, it was maybe the novelty of the year? I don't want to get that extreme, but that G4 push with a knight en prise, that was some really sick stuff from Caruana.
That's right. Just a few days ago, Caruana unleashed maybe the most devilish piece of home cooking opening prep that we've seen all year. I highly recommend everyone at home to go check that game out if you get an opportunity. Caruana, he's a man in form. He's one of the world's best players for many, many years now. But Vincent Keimer will have revenge on his mind as, we will be checking in on the results in that Division 2.
And Fabi is not just somebody that we cover all the time. He often is watching these shows, and lately he's been so dominant in Division 3 that he's messaging me. I'm like, don't you have a match to play? And he's like, got the job done. Now it's a rest day from here on out. So Fabi, he lost his first game overall to Heike Martirosyan. Since then, 13.5 out of 15. If he had showed this form earlier, and let's say in the Swiss, we might be talking about Fabi going to Norway, but not this year. It's Vincent Keimer, his opponent, who will be in Norway, in Oslo. And fans, will you be there? Will you join the likes of Vincent Keimer in Oslo? Go look for tickets and get some, because this teenager, he is somebody that you will see for years to come.
Yeah, he's the new German prince, the leader of the German national team. He's their big hope to eventually, maybe someday, become a world champion. It's just part of a golden generation. Vincent Keimer, so impressive as well. He's beaten Magnus Carlsen in Classical. And so far on the tour this year, he has been in great shape. So nice to see him get a chance at another final. And another match will be following throughout today, Robert.
And you mentioned his win over Magnus Carlsen. Here is that man on screen. Looks like he just is fresh out the shower. He is ready to play against Alireza Firouzja, and his play better be fresh, because Firouzja, he takes you into that murky waters where, if you can stay afloat long enough, you may survive. But for Magnus, he has seen some disappointment against Firouzja. I think we have to call it how it is. Firouzja's won 3 matches in rapid chess to just 2 for Magnus. Magnus is not facing defeat that often.
Yeah, it's just Firouzja's unique style, just dragging his opponents into those murky waters, dragging everyone's accuracies down, including his own, but just making it complicated, messy. It's really inspiring, I think, for everyone at home. The fact that Firouzja, he plays on his own terms. He complicates things, and not even the very best, not even Magnus Carlsen can relax when he knows that fireballs are going to be thrown at him left, right, and center. And it is Firouzja starting with white, Robert, which I feel might be important. He needs to start off on the front foot. And if he strikes first, Magnus will start to get nervous. What do you make of the player's body language as we get going any moment now?
They both almost look a little tired, just like, can we get this underway? But I think, David, the key for Alireza Firouzja is not to get in the time trouble that we've seen from him. He is able to outplay the best. He is the bullet chess champion for a reason, but I think giving time odds the way he did even yesterday against Levon Aronian, when Levon had that preparation that we've seen before, he can't afford that. And whoa, something's happening. Magnus seems a little bit bothered, even though just a single move is in play.
Yeah, something is up with Magnus. Maybe it's tech issues. Maybe the game hasn't started for him. An arrow appeared. That was me drawing an arrow on the board a bit earlier. I drew d4, and then suddenly e4 appeared. I hope that wasn't what threw Magnus off. But e4, I mean, that's Firouzja's favorite first move. I don't think Magnus is confused about the chess right now, Robert. It must be a tech issue. It looks like he's typing to our arbiters. Something's going on. As pointed out in the featured chat, Firouzja has had a shave, looking very sharp. He wants to get going. And Magnus, play your move.
Okay, well, we don't have a move yet. This is odd stuff. So why don't we just wait for Magnus to get going here? If he will get going, we know that sometimes he, by his own admission, isn't always the most technologically savvy, but this is weird, David. I hope that he can lock in and get everything going soon. So maybe we should take a look at our other divisions just for the moment, see how the opening... Oh, as I say that, here comes c5, of course.
That's right. And we will catch up with that Sicilian defense. But in the meantime, just to tease everyone at home, just to show you that we do have access to those Division 2 and 3 finals. We've touched upon them. We'll be talking about the results as they tick in. We'll be trying to focus on some key moments if and when they occur. Wesley So on the left there against Denis Lazovic. True to form, they're playing a slow Italian game there, whereas Vincent Keimer against Fabiano Caruana. Two very creative players. Vincent these days does try to sharpen things up more than he ever has done. And yeah, we'll be keeping you abreast of developments there. But Robert, we have moves in our star attraction. It is Magnus Carlsen playing the Sicilian and playing a very provocative line. It's an open Sicilian. There has been one set of pawn trades in the center. Now, with this last move, a6, we're likely to enter the Khan variation, where white takes a lot of space, but black is super flexible. What do you make of this choice by Magnus?
I think in my childhood, I loved playing against the Khan, because what I would try to do is if that bishop ever went to c5, I would try to trade it off, like get rid of that dark square bishop so I could make use of the Swiss cheese. You have created holes in your position from the black side. So I think that here bishop d3 is one move, knight c3 is another. You do have a bunch of different options in the early going, but we see Magnus, I mean, he's not holding anything back, David. He's striking with b5, and if memory serves me well, didn't you have that blitz game in Retiro Park against Judith Polgar? It started something like this, and it didn't end very well for Magnus.
Oh yeah, that's a classic game. Go check out that one on YouTube. If anyone's curious, Polgar, Carlsen, a bit of a showdown. Magnus does employ this slightly risky line from time to time. I actually had this position myself back in the summer from the white side, and yeah, it does feel like black is living on the edge. You mentioned the Swiss cheese. I was highlighting some dart squares, especially the d6 square right at the front here. If a dart square bishop ever is traded, black's piece here, the protector of that square, watch out. Oh, he plants his bishop on that square, occupying it now. This is a tactic. It is a loose square. White can, for example, consider moving his bishop out of the way, taking a pawn and hitting the bishop. But there are tactics against the white king. Watch out for bishop takes h2 ideas. At some point, black often wants to line up his queen and bishop along this diagonal to gain a bit of time. But Robert, this is really provocative. He's asking white to step forward with a pawn, take more space, please. Alireza here. He's saying that comes with pros and cons, but yeah, it just feels like Magnus doesn't care about being solid in these early stages.
so many difficult decisions posed already. As you said, e4 to e5 with tempo, but that bishop on c6 becomes much stronger when you push that e-pawn. And then if you play bishop takes b5, which I'm also tempted by, you have to calculate bishop takes h2 check, and now we get opposite colored bishops. I was talking about how I like to get rid of my opponent's dark square bishop, considering the pawn structure, but I'm not sure if that would have been advisable, giving up a kingside pawn. So e5 has been played, David. The e4 square, maybe white's for the taking, and now I'm going to ask you, does that bishop, he goes back to c7, he answers before I could ask. I wasn't sure if it would go up the board or back, but he decides to retreat and keep pressure alive on the e5 pawn, and also with that bishop on c6, staring at the white kingside.
Yeah, Black's bishops have great potential right now. That being said, White's ahead in development. White has already castled. Black is a few moves away from doing so. Even castling now for Black will be fraught with danger. The White bishop will be staring down at that flank. But Alireza starts by mobilizing on the queen side, some pressure against Black's pawns over here. Two reactions. The most natural is to bypass that pawn. Black's choice here of pawn to b4 here would also gain time against the White knight. But maybe the black pawns will become weak later on. I'm also wondering, Robert, if after b4, White has a sneaky move, queen to g4, hitting the pawn on b4, or he's also hitting the pawn on g7, and this could lead to some crazy tactics right now.
Good spot there, David, because I was wondering, I mean, doesn't this look good for Black at first? You get to kick that knight, it's going to go to e4, but if it goes there, you drop the e5 pawn. That means your knight cannot step along the e-file. So I thought that this was maybe a strategic mistake, but you found a tactical answer. Queen g4 is nice. You hit g7, which would trap the rook on h8, so you're not just giving away a knight for a pawn. And then if you save the g7 pawn, down goes b4. So is Magnus just giving away the b-pawn, like queen g4, knight e7. I know the g7 pawn's untouchable because rook g8 will be devastating, but I guess I'm just wondering, like, can White just take that b4 pawn now? Because that is hanging over there. It looks free. What's the deal?
Oh yeah, I'm just putting these moves on the board. The ones you were mentioning, Robert, definitely taking b4, safer than taking on g7. You ask what the deal is. I don't really see it. The eval bar says it's nothing to worry about, but Black's simply a pawn down, and this must be Magnus's plan. Let's just go back to the game position. It is queen g4 on the board. Double exclamation point given because it is sacrificing a knight, but just to show everyone at home, do not take it. This is a trap of a rook. So the blue arrow has appeared saying knight e7 only move, and it's definitely up to Magnus to justify. I guess it's, okay, knight e7 indeed played. I guess it's just the fact that White will lose a bit of time with the queen later on. Knight g6 played by Magnus now, hitting White's stronghold in the center. I'm skeptical, I've got to say, Robert, but these are the top players. Magnus doesn't give up pawns for no reason, so he must have at least something on his mind here.
And I'm wondering how much of that was a sacrifice versus an oversight. I typically trust Magnus. He did play knight e7 to g6 relatively quickly, but the fact that queen g4 was played and then he thought for even a little bit makes me wonder if he actually saw it coming. But now that we're here, e5, it's targeted. If you ever push pawn to f4 to defend that loose pawn, you are weakening diagonals in front of your own king, and you're also shortchanging your queen from some squares. So that white queen can be kicked about quite a bit. So I do see how Black can gain a few tempi, but still, a pawn is a pawn, is it not, David?
A pawn is a pawn, and I think both of us by nature, Robert, we like to keep our pawns intact unless we can calculate our way to finding compensation, to maybe regaining that pawn. Magnus, especially the last few years, ever since the dawn of Alpha Zero, he's been more willing to kind of give pawns away instinctively, just for squares, for activity of pieces. And yeah, the more I look at it, the more I think it might be tricky for White right now. You mentioned that f4 move. I just want to jump in and show why White cannot play the most natural move, or maybe should not play the most natural move. Pawn to f4 right now, you mentioned it. I'm just looking at, okay, first kicking the queen away. If the queen steps back, a check, and I'm already sensing some danger. King in the corner, the black queen jumps out. Look at the firepower that Black has right now, hitting everything. Do not try this at home, ladies and gentlemen. Magnus not sacrificing a pawn for nothing. Firouzja still deep in thought.
Okay, so we are watching for Alireza's next move. It's not going to be an easy choice. Bishop takes knight, which is attacking that pawn e5. That would be a strategic mistake because black just takes back towards the center, and that rook on h8 develops from its starting square, allowing black to go for an attack. But this is not an easy moment. I'm trying to find alternatives here. I do not want to drop this pawn on e5. So David, Alireza brings his queen back to g4, and I have to say I like that a lot because the king side feels safer, and he's protecting g7 tactically. This is some great full board awareness from Firouzja.
Brilliant from Firouzja, and it is based on tactics, as you mentioned, Robert. You cannot really take the e5 pawn now with the black knight. g7 would fall, and if the bishop were to take, maybe multiple downsides there, but white could consider rook takes and then capturing on g7. I think black's house would collapse suddenly. It did cost Firouzja a lot of time, though, Robert. Before the game, you advised him not to drop too far behind on the clock, and he's 2 minutes down. It's still very, very early days, but he's got an extra pawn, so whose position would you prefer here?
I prefer the extra pawn. I know you and I both like our healthy material count, but I think that the time disadvantage, it's not so consequential, at least for the moment. And it's that extra pawn that is doing all the talking. Black is having difficulty even making this next turn. Do you just castle kingside? But David, now white is saying I snagged b4 and I live to tell the tale. So I think Magnus is looking for something a little bit more forcing, but where is that going to come from? You don't really have the kingside attack that you'd hope for. Your g7 pawn is always loose in a number of variations. Bishop c1 to g5 with tempo for white. h4, h5 if you get a little bit careless on that side of the board. And let's say you castle, you might walk into an attack. So I'm not really sure how Magnus proceeds from here, but it's clear to me that he's also not certain what to do.
Yeah, that's right. Robert, if we were capable physically of putting a black pawn on b6, for example, we would say, okay, it's just a normal position. White has great attacking chances, but white has that extra pawn. Yes, has spent several moves with his queen, Firouzja, but time is of the essence. I think Magnus needs to strike now somehow to gain compensation. Otherwise, this could be one-sided traffic. The time disadvantage that I was talking about has pretty much disappeared as well, down to just around 30 seconds now. I would castle here. I think Magnus might get tempted at some point to break out with f6 or f5 once his king has got to safety, trying to open up more lines, most importantly, for these raking bishops. But right now, proof is in the pudding. He needs to justify that pawn sacrifice, that pawn blunder from a bit earlier on. Yeah, the more I look at it, the more I think queen g4, a mark of genius from Firouzja. King safety, as you mentioned, it's looking very good for white right now.
So Firouzja doing an excellent job at the moment. Magnus desperately trying to find the accurate path forward. I like what you said, castle and an f-pawn push for black. That helps open up more avenues of attack. Maybe Magnus is also thinking about the direct path, queen b8, going right after e5, because he may want to induce f2 to f4. I'm not 100% sold on how much that helps black now that the queen is on g4 defending the king side, but he does go for that, and I think that Alireza, now is the time to get in the flow. Like, if he can play f4 quickly and then put Magnus back on the clock, I think that he is going to be in good shape, but I can get why he would be hesitant to make that move. It does open up some diagonals in front of his king.
That's right. I was warning against f4 just a few moments ago, but now it is slightly more of a different story here. The white queen is perfectly on the right flank here. She's protecting her king, also potentially attacking. So, okay, we do see the moves we were expecting. f4 defending a pawn, black castles. I think Magnus at some point will have to try to gamble, break the white stronghold in the center, f6 or d6. And still plenty of play ahead. The black queen, you might be asking at home, why is she kind of parked on this square? She is exerting some pressure on the white queen side. So every pawn you drop, it means you get open lines. Some solace there, but knight e4 heading in that direction, Robert. One or two more moves and it might be Firouzja. His attack that is deadly after all. This one is hanging in the balance. The eval bar says level, but it's anything but calm right now.
And I love moves like knight to e4. In any Sicilian, you want to bring that firepower towards the king side, especially with the bishop on d3. There will be some attacking chances if that knight can get to g5. And your idea, David, which was such a good one, f6 or f5, it looks a lot less appealing now because white takes a... Oh, Okay, it looks less appealing to me, but it's a great move from Magnus. I would be way too scared to play like this, David, and yet it was the best decision from Black.
Yeah, I think it was born out of necessity, that choice. I liked the idea when the white knight wasn't lurking in the center near the black king, and suddenly the black knight is the only thing preventing a decisive attack. But I think more urgently, Magnus realized he needed to open up his bishops. He needed to break white's bind in the center, and yeah, risky decision, but ultimately justified. And Firouzja at least has to deal with some threats of his own now. This pawn is hanging. A second f5 move is threatened with a proper fork. And wow, Robert, I was going to say we should check out Division 2, Division 3, but suddenly just this last move alone, and things have exploded.
And we do have a draw between Denis Lazovic and Wesley So. These two players, I mean, some of the most solid on the planet. Not surprised that there's little separating them. We will keep everyone updated as more results come in. But, I mean, you mentioned f5 for black. I was thinking f5 for white at the moment. I'm not sure how viable it is because it drops h2 with check. And, okay, I keep saying how I wouldn't do something. Then I say how I will, and then it happens on the board. But h2 is hanging right now, and Magnus picks it up. Material is even, David, but this position is chaotic.
It's chaotic purely because both kings are under fire right now. The white king, temporarily safe, you might say, in the corner, but won't be safe forever. There's not much shelter around it right now, and the black king under serious pressure as well. Knight takes f6 is the immediate threat. I guess black can defend against that in multiple ways. Dropping the bishop back looks relatively healthy, but white's going to add more kind of wood to the fire here. Bishop's going to land on h6. The cage will be closing around the black king. I think I would still take white here, Robert. He might have given the pawn back, but another good tip for everyone at home, sometimes materialism, you don't have to worry about it. It's more about getting to the enemy king.
There's so many different ideas in this position. I'm already looking at tactics. You know, if that knight on e4 were to move, that g2 pawn feels very tender. There will be sacrifices available on that square. So in a way, I'm wondering, is knight takes f6 actually a threat? Like, because we see a trade on f6, bishop g2, queen g3 ideas. I'm not entirely sure, so I'm being fully honest there. But it just seems like a position where either side could make a mistake. And queen e5, I'm wondering now, is knight takes f6 check an option because the rook stares down at the queen. The queen is needed to protect the bishop on h2. David, you get where I'm going with this. It is so hectic here that even a great seeming tactic, it may backfire because there could be counter shots.
Yeah, counter shots, tactics all over the place. I just noticed at the bottom of our screens, Robert, there, for the viewers at home as well, 99% accuracy from Firouzja, despite how complicated it's been. Magnus's accuracy was at 99.6% until this last move. It did drop slightly below the 99 mark, but incredible. I mean, queen to e5, I would say another natural move, but so much to calculate. And Magnus played it so quickly. And Robert the Prophet, you've guessed it all. And Magnus finds a convoluted way to give up his queen, Robert. It's queen for rook and knight right now, but watch out, the white king, as you mentioned, not relaxing right now. This is crazy. Magnus, queen sacrifice.
Yeah, if we can bring up an analysis board ever so quickly, I was not anticipating a queen sacrifice. I thought that after the knight captured on f6 with check, that black would just take back with the queen, and you may be down a pawn in the ensuing queenless position, but I thought that black would have some counter chances. The rook is active, the bishop on c6 looks nice, but clearly the evaluation bar and Magnus Carlsen's brain say otherwise. So we see a material imbalance, and white has a queen at the moment for a rook and a knight, but white also has an extra pawn. So it's like 10 points worth of material for just about 8-9 points. So white does have extra material, David, but the white king is in some serious danger.
Ooh, look at Magnus. He's motoring forward now. Momentum on black side. Big threat to capture on g2, at least to restore the material balance. And okay, Firouzja, he needs to get his pieces out. I don't think there's any way of stopping that threat, Robert. For a second, I was going to suggest bishop to e4, block that diagonal, but whoops, suddenly the guardian of the f1 square would be gone, and that would be a checkmate in one move. There's pitfalls all over the place. Firouzja down under 1 minute. Maybe he just needs to get developed. If he could get these two pieces into the action, he would be able to defend and convert his material advantage. How does he do it, though? How does he calm himself and readjust to this new situation?
I was about to make a second checkmate allowance. Bishop takes g6, falls for the same rook f1. So, you know, you just told me what could happen if you move the bishop, and I still tried it anyway. This is what you call not learning your lesson. So, okay, we can't move the light square bishop very easily. Bishop e3, does allow that capture on g2, and I guess we could evaluate the ensuing position. The bishop pair does look strong, but there may not be enough material remaining to have great winning chances. But he does it in a different way, David. He's giving up the queen, but he's also keeping an eye on the b2 pawn. This is a better path forward for Firouzja.
Yeah, he's trying to bait Magnus now into those exchanges. And okay, the queen sacrifice was just temporary in the end. It's level material now, and we're heading into an endgame. But Robert, this is very reminiscent of Firouzja's win yesterday against Levon Aronian. It was opposite color bishops there. Light squared bishop against dark squared bishop. He had the exact same kind of ingredients to win that game. And 17 seconds, that's the only problem for him. But do you imagine Firouzja here maybe motoring forward the queenside pawns? Still any chances for a win?
This looks a lot like that game against Levon from yesterday. And for black, you have the worst pawns. They're all isolated. That means another pawn can't defend it. You have to use your more valuable pieces. But look at Magnus. He's trying to counter. He's trying to put pressure on white's vulnerable pawns. And if you go rook b8, white will play this little move, rook to a2, and just keep everything honest. So look at the rook swing over here. David, this is not going to be easy for Magnus. And he does give up the h-pawn. And Magnus does make it look easy. It's his point now that you give a pawn with check, but b2 is falling. If you push b2, down goes c3, and the whole chain will just collapse.
Yeah, genius endgame play by both sides, I've got to say. I think Firouzja slightly panicking. Maybe he needed to just consolidate there, bring the white king nearer to the center. But yeah, Magnus, great decision. Another great little nugget there for everyone at home. Piece activity, king activity is all important. Who cares about pawns short term? He's going to regain the material here, and yes, white can bail out with a move such as rook b6 now, offer a trade of rooks. He does so to protect his queenside pawns, but opposite color bishops, it's just pawns all on one flank. Unlike yesterday, Robert, where we had the trousers separated past pawns marching up the board, overwhelming black on both flanks. This time, with everything concentrated just on one side, should be a draw now.
And perhaps even a draw without one of these two pawns there, but now it just easy. You put your bishop in line with the c5 square, so white's never able to push through. And with these last trades, I think the players will agree to a draw in the near future. David, a hard-fought game in this first one. Bishop b5 is funny, saying we can draw, it's okay. But David, impressive game from both these two. The tactical flair is a treat for all of us to watch.
That's right. These were two giants of the game in full flow, just throwing everything at each other, but ultimately cancelling each other out. A draw, a fair result. Very, very high quality game there, and a great start to the day for both. I don't think either can complain. We saw them there just going through the game with the computer, and yeah, still at least a few more games to go, Robert. Who do you think the happier of the two will be after that clash?
Well, Magnus had the black pieces. He made a draw. I think he should be very happy with his performance. And he never truly was in danger. It was an extremely accurate display of chess from both sides. But Magnus, he held steady. He gave away a pawn. Still wasn't in any trouble. I think that Magnus, he now has the upper hand with two whites in the remaining 3 games.
He started the day in the driver's seat as the favorite with that extra match win. And yeah, ultimately a draw with black. Especially because Firouzja with the white pieces is so dangerous, can always choose those attacking lines. I agree. Magnus maybe the slightly happier of the two, as we see other players flex there, stretch. We saw Fabiano Caruana. Wesley So is now in action in his second game, Robert. Action all over the place, and of course the Magnus frown to start the day.
Well, Magnus may have frowned to start, but he is probably much happier now, as is Fabiano Caruana. Look at this position on the right-hand side of your screen, the board in blue. Fabiano has been incredible in the Julius Baer Generation Cup 3rd division. He started with a loss. He is 13.5 out of 15, all against extremely strong Grandmasters, including his earlier match against Vincent Keimer. And David, he's just in a winning endgame. He's up a couple pawns. No chance for Vincent in game 1.
Oof, this is as one-sided as it gets right now. Black is 2 pawns to the good. I think he can win this in multiple ways. He can win it at will. He could have traded knights. He keeps knights on. That board on the right of your screens, everyone, it should be decided any moment now. 2 pawns to the good in an endgame. Passed pawn, active pieces. This is Fabi. I mean, this is remnant of 2014 Fabi, where he just crushed everyone at the Sinkfield Cup. He's just on a roll. Winning has just become a habit for him. In the meantime, on the other board, it's in the thick of the early middle game. as Denis Lazovic, Wesley So. It's game 2, Robert. They've been playing faster than anyone else today. A queen trade imminent, and there we go. Fabi does take the win meanwhile.
Yeah, no surprises there. Fabiano, he did win game 1 with black. That means that he is clearly in the driver's seat in the 3rd division. But as I look to the left-hand side of our screen there, that looks like an extremely sharp position between Denis Lazovic and Wesley So. We keep talking about how strategic they are, how they like these end games for their slight pluses. This could be a winning position in the near future if Wesley, who has the black pieces, is not careful. So Denis can enjoy his top view for the moment. He will be switched down to the white pieces here. But David and Denis, this is a very sharp opening from him.
Yeah, I was going to say, Denis Denis looking very different for now. But yeah, this opening, it's really... I'm not going to say gone wrong, but it's living life on the edge for Wesley. So it's all about the kings yet again. The black king pinned right now, at least the knight in front of it is, and under some serious pressure. I think queen back to c7, keeping the queens on the board was a great decision by Wesley. So, and in the meantime, he will be able to break the bind, break the pressure. And wow, straight back into the thick of things, Robert. No break, no rest for the wicked, as Fabi takes the white pieces against Vincent Keimer, and it's a hedgehog on that right board on the screen right now.
There's just some weird queen trade that happened in the Denis Lazovic versus Wesley So game on the left-hand side. Like, White's queen was under attack. He didn't move it. Instead, he counterattacked the black queen. And now we have Denis Lazovic's true style on display. We are in a queenless position where he is slightly better, and he is going to try to go after Wesley's king, which is in the center, and White is one step away from castling long. So this match is going to be fun. It's not just going to be pure endgames, rook and pawn endgames. They do bring some heat when the position calls for it. So on the right-hand side, David, Fabi and Vincent, we're in like a Maroczy bind structure, early stages there, but Fabi, he's probably taking a bit of a safer approach now that he's up 1-0.
That's right. We'll await to see whether anyone can stop the Fabi Express. In the meantime, our Division 1 game, Division 1 clash between Magnus Carlsen and Alireza Firouzja. We're about to rejoin the action there once we get our world number 1 back in his gaming chair there. Looks like he's packing, moving. Robert, something's going on for Magnus. He's actually playing in London in a couple of days' time, so maybe just getting ready for the Global Chess League there. But either way, he's going to come back. He's going to assume the white pieces. He's going to try to strike first, if possible. What opening approach do you expect from Magnus in game 2 now?
I never know what to expect from him. I mean, that last game that we saw was an offbeat opening that he has trotted out from time to time, but I wasn't anticipating that. So I think, David, he will play... Come on, Magnus, make a move so I can answer the question. Where is that first move? David, what do you think? You know Magnus super well.
Beat him to it, Robert. I'll say c4. English opening, just, I don't know, he freestyles. It's literally a 1 in 5, 1 in 6 chance he could play. Oh, Magnus, what are you doing to me? You could have made me look so good there, dude. No, instead it's a Grunfeld defense.
I thought he was going to be a b3 cowboy. He instead goes for d4. He's playing mainline stuff. Of course, he respects Alireza Firouzja, who, as we've stated, has a match lead against Magnus throughout this year. 3 match wins in the CCT for Alireza, 2 match wins for Magnus. So Magnus, he wants to even this thing up. And well, I think for now, in this opening, David, this is bishop b5 check. It's an inclusion that in the old books, they'd be like, what are you doing? Why are you giving a tempo to black? But this has become more of a topical variation to stop black from instantly playing c5 and chiseling at white center.
That's right. White looks like he's losing a bit of time here, but ultimately black has to strike against the center. Black's Grunfeld defense is all about this dark squared bishop, the fianchettoed bishop along the diagonal. It has a lot of influence. So often you want to challenge the center, but you were prevented temporarily. And Firouzja is making use of the fact that he's been able to kind of gain space on the queen side with tempo, pushing b5, attacking the bishop, a5, maybe hinting at a4, b4, and it's all to do with undermining White's strong center from afar. So yeah, this is something I've played myself a lot from the black side throughout my career. I'm always kind of just getting excited, but then realizing White's center is just super strong. So we'll wait to see developments here. But I do want to mention Magnus has played this from the white side before, so I do wonder whether Alireza Firouzja is well prepared. I remember some clashes against another Frenchman, Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, in this exact line, which didn't always go Magnus's favor. But yeah, Magnus a minute up on the clock already, still with a big pawn center. I think it's a small opening success for him.
I know you like this position from the black side because you've played it so many times yourself, but I will say I think it's a good strategic decision from Magnus because Alireza, he likes tactical fireworks. You are forcing Alireza to take some strategic risks in order to get that kind of dynamic game. We see black's queenside, those pawns b5 and a5. You might even play a4 in the future, but your pawns may be overextended. At the right moment, white can push one of his own pawns to quickly put some pressure in the black position, and that's something that you need to take a serious glance at. You do not just want to push your pawns to a4 and think later. You have to note, like, is that giving away all the dark squares? Will that bishop go to a3 if these pawns are all on light squares? And we have seen a4 and c5. We have liftoff, but David, I mean, all these pawn pushes, they do have consequences.
They really do, and Magnus is already poking at those consequences, asking black whether he's bothered about this pawn. I'm not sure whether it's hanging right now, whether you can take it, because black's bishop would come out and skewer the two white rooks to each other. But he is asking those questions, and black has neglected piece development in kind of favor of pushing all of these pawns. So very risky strategy, as you mentioned, strategically from Firouzja. 3 sleeping pieces here on the queen side. He needs to get those out sooner rather than later. And it does feel like Magnus might still be in book here, Robert. White's played very natural moves. Bishop b5 check, maybe the only kind of slightly offbeat decision. But ever since that, Magnus has just retreated his bishop when asked to. He's castled his king. He's still got the center. It's definitely onus on black to fight back. And okay, knight to c6, putting more pressure on white's stronghold in the center. Yeah, I love black's position just because I've got so many games under my belt in the Grunfeld, Robert, but I do understand that white should here be able to consolidate the center and is totally fine.
Well, I can't wait for you to send me your files later so I can better understand this position because I do get that b5 may be untouchable thanks to this bishop a6 idea, hitting both rooks on the diagonal, but that pawn still sticks out to me. It's like doesn't feel very safe, but maybe black is ready to play pawn to b4 in the near future. And okay, we have a pawn now on e5. Bishop e4 is going to be a key idea for white. Watch out for that because you're pinning that black knight, and that could be some danger, some trouble for black. Your pieces are not so harmonious, and I think that Alireza has the more difficult questions to answer for now, but he is playing really well.
Yeah, he's playing well right now, and a big decision, I think a very wise decision from Magnus Carlsen. Often you don't want to push pawns forward in the center because you lose flexibility. Now white's pawns far less likely to push forward as a duo, but he has locked in black's beautiful dart squared bishop, the fianchettoed piece there, and Magnus pauses, Robert, maybe hesitating from the very natural recapture on d4 because of that other move, the option you mentioned, bishop to e4, the intermezzo there, the Zwischenzug, just before recapturing, threaten, pin, and yeah, maybe you gain a bit of time in the process.
It'd be hard for me to refrain from playing bishop to e4, but that might welcome the black queen out, and that could be useful, but there will be further tactics, right? With the bishop on e4, the rook on a8 is at the end of that diagonal, so knight takes d4 is something you have to what? Bishop f5?
Wow. Yeah, I mean, I had to raise my eyebrows there as well, Robert. Bishop f5, if he plays it, it shows he's in bang in top form here right now for Firouzja. Just giving up the knight and noticing that loose do drop off. It is the rook on the b1 square that would be hanging, but I mean, that's just step one. You have to calculate way into the future. You have to evaluate, even after a trade of bishops, whether that pawn structure is in black's favor or not. What do you think? Is he going to play it? That's a crazy move if he finds it.
I seriously was only looking at moves like queen c7, queen b6, but Alireza Firouzja, I mean, he is in tip-top shape at the moment. And white's now only move, quote-unquote, is obvious, right? You're going to take this bishop on f5, and Magnus will benefit from hurting black's kingside structure. And my main question is, after a swap of bishops, will white take on d4 with the pawn, with the knight? How do you see this game heating up from here, David? Because there is a ton of action, and it's going to be a critical moment.
Yeah, it's going to be a critical moment. I think Magnus's hand, as you mentioned, forced in the early stages, but still some big decisions ahead. To my eyes, I think Black is in great shape now that he's found this key move. The kind of key beauty in the Grunfeld defense is this dark square bishop, but also the outside pawn majority on the queen side here. If white ever recaptures in the center, for example, now, then, okay, he trades knights first. The black B pawn, the black A pawn could be real assets in the endgame for Black, distracting the white army or maybe becoming a pass pawn. Magnus, though, asking for a trade of knights. He will be hoping, I guess, here, Magnus, that the black dark square bishop stays out of the game for as long as possible. And I'm not sure whether we'll see queens come off. I'm trying to weigh up kind of these strategic long-term decisions. I think Magnus might keep the queens on purely because the black king slightly more open than its counterpart. That being said, still some excitement ahead here. I feel this might just be where it starts to get exciting.
It will, because the queens will stay on the board. White will try to go after that black king. But while the players, they start calculating at this moment, the knight capture on d4, there's a capture on e5 available as well. Let's look at the other two divisions, just because some late stage action happening in the other games. And as we look on our screens, Denis Lazovic with the white pieces. This is how knights outclass bishops. On the left-hand side of your screen, everyone, there is absolute control of the light squares, and there's a dark square bishop. So David, it is useless in trying to stave off the pressure that knight is going to cause.
Yeah, that is a dominant position for Denis Lazovic right now. He's way up on the clock as well. Wesley So down to just 12 seconds. Yeah, good knight versus bad bishop scenarios. They're one thing I think, especially when we're starting out in chess, we run into time and time again. Players have their preference, bishop or knight, but this is one case where a bishop alone struggles. White's pieces are all on outpost. White has a protected, has a pass pawn, in the center, the e pawn. And yeah, this is, I think, just a matter of technique, as they say. Still some accuracy needed, but Wesley about to crash to defeat. Denis striking back in this in this grand final. And on the right side of your screens, we see Fabiano Caruana. I mean, what more can we say about him at this point, Robert? It looks like he's in cruise control. I might even expect him to start sacrificing stuff. It looks like he's breaking Black's hedgehog formation, and then the bar drops. Commentator's curse. What do you expect from Fabi? Is he going to continue his form?
I still think it looks good for Fabi on the right-hand side, but I am just captivated by this endgame and the technique of the teenager Denis Lazovic. It's almost like white is up a pawn because of the absolute control, the king on c4. But speaking of commentator's curse, the last few moves have gone wrong for Denis Lazovic. I mean, it looks like very natural moves, but Wesley, down to 15 seconds, has been finding all of the best defensive resources.
Yeah, Denis has suddenly walked into what might become a race without having thought too much, but there we go in his need for speed, Wesley. So he repeats the position and gives Denis Lazovic another shot at victory here. I don't know the right path, but maybe you need to be patient. Maybe just sit on black a bit. And repeating the position, Denis Lazovic, he might be blowing the wind, Robert.
4 seconds for Denis on the left-hand side of our screen. He's barely getting his moves off. And is that knight trapped now? Okay, it gets out. I said, can he possibly lose this game? That would be unheard of.
Might still happen. It is a race. The black king sprinting towards the white king side pawns. And what we do know about bishops versus knights, bishops thrive when the center is open, when they can look at both sides, when they have influence on both flanks. And it feels like Denis should still be in control. He's trying to eliminate the black pawns, especially the G pawn on the king side, potential queen. But suddenly it's anyone's game, and the bar drops even more. We've definitely put the commentator's curse on him.
I cannot believe this is happening, but it's resilience from Wesley So, who is playing better in mutual time trouble. Now Wesley's ahead on the clock. I think he was down over 2 minutes, and he was down to his last 10. But now he's up a pawn. I cannot believe it, and nor can Denis. David, he's got his hand on his head, and he is just losing this game now.
Yeah, he's shell-shocked. He's going to have to give up the white knight for the pawn, and Black's bishop protects Black's 2 remaining pawns, those potential queens, and Denis resigns. What a turnaround, Wesley So. Wow, I don't know how he got the victory there from the jaws of defeat, but either way, he's going to be buzzing. Denis, golden opportunity, slipped through his fingers.
Okay, so we still see Fabi with a slight advantage, I would say, on the right-hand board, but Wesley So leads 1.5 to half in Division 2, and Wesley has the inside track to the lion's share of the prize there. So let's go back to our main matchup of the day, Magnus Carlsen against Alireza Firouzja. Honestly, not too much has changed. The queens have been exchanged, but we see sort of the outline of a position that we saw coming. And David, black is even in material, but those are double pawns. We are approaching the endgame stage. Does that mean that white, in some ways, is a pawn ahead? The C pawn doesn't have anything in front of it.
Yeah, great shout, Robert. Watch out for this long term. Everyone at home, watch out for the white c-pawn stepping forward, especially if the knights disappear. White c-pawn is going to cause some major damage. But yeah, I think two main things have happened since we were last here. The queen's coming off, but also black getting the bishop out of jail. The black bishop was a bit blocked, now nicely centralized, eliminating that e-pawn. And white has got rid of that scary looking pawn edifice on the queen side. Magnus, meanwhile, focusing his pieces clearly on this side of the board. G3 is a bit sneaky. F4 almost traps the black bishop, Robert. I was going to say white's pawn to F4 would have almost trapped it. So black prevents that. He's getting rid of his double pawns by force. It looks like Firouzja fighting very well in this endgame.
A good decision from Alireza to get rid of one of his bigger weaknesses here. And there's still some dynamic opportunities for both sides. As you mentioned, F4 could be really annoying. Even if F takes G3, H takes G3, that threat is renewed. So it's a good lesson in tension and when to keep or release it. Black does not want to take on G3 just yet, even though it undoubles the pawn. So for Magnus, he may bring his king forward. Why not? It's the endgame. Use the king as an active piece, as a potential weapon. So I would be bringing that king up right now and then trying to figure out what actual plan to concoct later.
Ooh, Magnus takes a different path. I would have played that on autopilot. I think if it were a bullet game, Magnus would also have centralized his king. The white king clearly better placed than its counterpart. But Magnus makes it concrete. He goes very direct. He's trying to trade off the black knight, which is a blockader of white's pass pawn, that c-pawn, but also is a protector of the e-pawn. Magnus is hoping that black is slightly off balance in terms of coordination. Robert, do you think taking here? I guess that's what Alireza is going to be calculating for a while. He could also maybe maintain the tension, defend his knight. What's going through his mind, do you feel?
I was wondering if he was even thinking of taking with the bishop on d4, but he decides to take with the knight, suggesting that the ensuing endgame, he feels that it should be level. But how many times have we said this, David? Should be a draw. It's got to be a draw. And then Magnus wins games just like this throughout his illustrious career. So what does white have going for him? Better pawn structure, where we'll see the e7 pawn drop, and even if those double f pawns are no more, you've isolated pawns on the king side for black. But the black king can step forward to g6 at any moment. I don't really see how white can make inroads, how white can win this game. So David, how is Magnus going to grind like a grandmaster?
Oh, good question, Robert. Putting me on the spot there, though. Magnus would love, I feel, to get all of the rooks off the board right now, especially if he is able to snag this pawn on e7. Wow, he doesn't. Maybe he was afraid there, Magnus, of the black rook activating, getting very quickly to the second rank. There is a big target on the f2 square. Now it's white with the worst pawn structure. I'm not sure he's going to be able to grind this at all, even Magnus. It might be him on the defensive even. It might be Magnus aiming to try and trade off the rooks at some point in the near future. It's this black bishop which is dominating proceedings right now. Rook c2, again, showing, just as he did in the previous game, that pawns are less important than piece activity. Firouzja. Yeah, I think Magnus needs to shut up shop here and just try to bail out. I'm not sure whether you start harassing this black bishop while you can. I'm not sure whether you should even try and trade into an endgame right now, because black's king, as you mentioned, does sprint very fast towards a weakness. Anyone's game. 3 results still possible here, Robert.
And rook c1 is one of those big questions, because it could lose the game for white in the near future. I don't think it's a losing move, but it can get you into a troublesome ending. Look at those pawns for white. We're talking about isolated pawns, but oh my goodness, David, why would Magnus choose this path? Because rook c2, going right after f2, which hits h2, and also a2. Do you like this decision from Magnus? He doesn't look too bothered, but the evaluation bar is.
He doesn't look bothered, but I would be terrified allowing this capture with a check and another capture. This is maybe what Magnus has missed. Will we see a reaction on the camera? We do. Magnus is saying, what have I done? I missed that. Not only is there a huge threat right now with the black bishop moving out of the way with a check, but he's simply down a pawn, Magnus Carlsen. Watch out, the 4th rank, there's discovered attacks. No way for white to regain the material. He's down a pawn, fighting for his life in this game, Robert.
And look at him. He is beside himself because he's like, how could I miss this? The king is on a dark square. Black has a dark square bishop. You are defending the a4 pawn tactically, and king e2 is the best move for white. But I think black has king f7 as a response and just trying to get that bishop out of here. Well, one thing to note is that white is threatening bishop takes f6 in these positions. So if black says, oh, let me protect my a pawn with a3, that bishop can capture the pawn over there. Although rook f2 check makes things a bit interesting, I do think that white can get away with this tactic.
Yeah, I think you're right, Robert. Bishop takes f6 is a neutralizing threat right now, regaining the material, getting pieces off. Alireza very cleverly offers a trade of rooks, and now a huge judgment call for Magnus Carlsen. Does he get the rooks off the board? There's a threat against the h2 pawn as well. It feels like material's disappearing. I do think that should be a draw. I would definitely capture this f6 pawn right now. We'll talk about bishops and pawns of opposite color, wrong color, soon. But yeah, it's definitely asking questions of Magnus. And Robert, take it away. Oh, the bar drops. Wait, what's happened here? I was about to say this should be a draw, but apparently this is a blunder from Magnus Carlsen.
He might have brought his king in the wrong direction. The king could have gone after that a pawn, and what white needs to do is give up the bishop on d8 for that a4 pawn. But guess what you can't do when you have a bishop? Get to the other color. So if you could just attack it and take it, even if it costs you your bishop, immediately the game is a draw. But not anymore. And the same colored bishops, David, that will allow black to bring his own bishop back to try to get in the same diagonal, all trades in the king and pawn endgame should be leading to a win for Alireza.
Yeah, he's going to bully that white bishop away now. He's got that extra pawn. King and pawn endgames are winning for black. He's going to put his bishop back now on the e7 square, and he's going to be able to push. The white king will at some point have to give way. Will have to kind of run back to stop the progress of that pawn, but then the black king will start running in the right direction. And the reason it's running there is because a1 is a dark square. It complements your bishop, something you were hinting upon earlier, Robert. And wow, this one, I don't know how easy it is. I think you do have to be slightly careful about when you push your pawns, but Magnus is suffering here, and it's so self-inflicted. It was that one blunder we saw him react to earlier.
I mean, I think it was just a strange decision. And Alireza, oh my goodness, Dave, you know what's about to happen? Is he's going to force the pawn to a3. This is brilliant awareness from Magnus Carlsen. He is going to force the black pawn forward. It can be defended by the bishop, but then the white king goes back to b1. This is incredible.
Wow. Just the vision, the foresight. I mean, the bravery to go for this, Magnus. He did it instantly. I was going to say you shouldn't push the pawn forward yet because the white king can still run towards it, but he goes the other way, Magnus Carlsen, and fortress. I mean, we all know what Magnus says about fortresses. He said once that he didn't believe in them, and he's been misquoted ever since. But this is the definition of a fortress. Once the black pawn is on a3, the white king will, as you mentioned, sit on b1, and there's no way to force it out of that cave, of that hiding place. It's going to be stalemating ideas there. The white king will simply kind of step between b1, a1, c2, c1, wherever you force it, and it will be a draw. I think we'll see it play out, Robert.
Incredible. And white is kind of threatening a3 himself to then bring his king and hit the black pawn because it's on a light square. Can't be defended by the bishop. So black may have to play a3, and then the white king just goes back into its own corner. So this is actually wild, and I just can't believe that Magnus spotted that quickly. Like, you can sense that there are some drawing techniques, but he had this in the back of his mind. Like, he knew the drawing zone.
That is crazy, and that's why he's the best in the world, Magnus Carlsen. He has an extra gear compared to a lot of top players. He knows when to sit back, suffer. He knows how to draw even the most hopeless looking of positions. And here we go, everyone. We're going to learn a lesson. A bishop is not enough, even with the right color corner, because of this stalemate idea. Look at that, Magnus willingly putting his king in the corner, but you cannot trap it. You cannot cage it. And stalemate will end this game most likely any moment now. Look at Firouzja on the camera as well. Frustrated, Robert. And it is a draw.
What a save from Magnus Carlsen. I mean, he did this to himself, so it's almost like he set the stage for his great escape. He is a magician, and that was an unbelievable escape. Yes, there was a bit of a helping hand from Alireza Firouzja, but he didn't have time to calculate all of the nuances there. David, I mean, that was truly exceptional stuff.
Exceptional stuff. Magnus used his get out of jail card free there, and yes, riding his luck, but ultimately keeping the scores level. That's the most important thing for Magnus, who does have an extra life in this tournament. Alireza Firouzja will, however, get the white pieces and should take solace in the fact that he played a great game there. He had Magnus Carlsen under pressure throughout that endgame, on the brink of victory. He had a winning position, letting it slip though, and these are the scores in the other divisions currently, Robert.
Oh, Wesley, so he stole a victory, and Fabiano Caruana seems unstoppable in the third division. So, Fabi, he looks like he is going to take the third division. David just needs one draw, but Denis Lazovic, he must be reeling, losing that endgame?
Yeah, Denis had his hands on the prize there. He had victory within his grasp. Ultimately, you can never relax against the best players in the world, though, and time, Robert, it was all about the clock. Denis Lazovic panicking when his clock was ticking down. One player, however, who did not panic was Magnus Carlsen, showing us an endgame masterclass, not in the way we're used to, not grinding out a long win, instead showing off his knowledge of fortresses. And it was this position where Alireza Firouzja let things slip. Let's do a bit of a dive into that endgame, where Alireza had won a pawn a bit earlier, and it was Magnus on the back foot. However, you have to have time on the clock to be able to calculate. You need to be able to judge which positions are winning, which ones aren't, what to aim for. And let's try to... Okay, we might check in on that one a bit later, Robert. Some tech issues now, but yeah, ultimately an endgame masterclass, one that I recommend everyone plays through a bit later at home.
Well, we definitely promise to dive into those details because I cannot wait for my David Howell lesson, and it's going to be a true masterclass. So yeah, you will want to watch that. You know what you'll also want to do? Do you like chess? I think you do. You're watching this show. If you're looking to play and meet new people in your community, enter Meetup, the platform for hosting and organizing community events. Connect with your local chess community or start events like chess nights or tournaments in the park. Plus, explore local community groups for any of your other hobbies on Meetup. Use the command Meetup in chat or visit go.chess.com/meetup to find your newest checkmates. I hope that I can find people who know how to make fortresses like Magnus Carlsen. You think they're on Meetup? I'm not sure, but you go find your own adventure. We will come back to this one. It is Magnus Carlsen. It is Alireza Firouzja. Other divisions taking place as well. This is the Julius Baer Generation Cup, part of the Champions Chess Tour.
He's not gonna find it. He's got 1 second. 1 second.
Oh! Mate on h6. Rook h6 mate.
He's winning.
I can't believe it.
Oh my goodness. Take.
Oh,
right.
Oh! He drops his rook.
Flagging.
D3. Oh, Bach throws.
Antipop wins this game in the craziest manner.
You guys are gonna have to give me the footage because right before the final segment of the 1+1, I set a Puzzle Rush record. I got 60 and I should have had 61. And I think that's recorded in the Zoom call, so I'm gonna want that footage.
Vincent Keimer is one of the most promising young talents, hailed as a potential world champion ever since he, as a 13-year-old prodigy, stunned the chess world by winning Grenka Open ahead of 49 Grandmasters. Last year, Keimer came close to a historic upset, nearly knocking Magnus Carlsen out of the World Cup, defeating him in their first game. Later in the year, the young German won the silver medal in the World Rapid Championship, only surpassed by Carlsen. At just 19 years old, Keimer has swiftly risen through the ranks and established himself as a formidable contender in the elite chess circuit. In this year's Champions Chess Tour, the teenager has once again demonstrated great skills in speed chess, winning Division 2 of the CrunchLabs Masters and pushing Carlsen to his limits in the Division 1 final of the Chess.com Classic.
Black King's coming. Vincent's not out of the woods yet. And he offers to trade the bishops. Wow, heartbreak for Vincent Keimer. He traded off the bishops, which was so desirable the whole game.
Now the question remains whether the young star can continue the momentum and take his game to even greater heights. Can young Vincent Keimer rise to the next level?
We are back here in the Julius Baer Generation Cup, deep into the second and third divisions. On the left-hand side of our screen, we see Wesley So getting the job done. He is now on the offensive against Denis Lazovic. And Fabiano Caruana on the right-hand side of our screen. David, he only needs a draw. It's an endgame. Vincent Keimer up a pawn. But will he be able to convert?
Ooh, that is the big question. Fabi has made light work of that division in Division 3 so far, and it does look like he's on the brink. Vincent Keimer on the camera there on the right side of your screens, everyone, doesn't look too confident right now. He's also down a few minutes on the clock. So I'm going to say Fabiano on the brink and likely to wrap things up in just 3 games here. Ultimately, it is Denis Lazovic under serious pressure, not his type of position either in Division 2. So Wesley, a big favorite as well. As we go back to our 2 gladiators, Robert. Magnus surely feeling relieved after that last encounter.
Nothing separating these two. Of course, Magnus, he survived a scare. And Alireza Firouzja has played some great chess in these first 2 games. And yet, the score says it all. 1-1. David, there is not much in it. These two, they cannot separate from one another because, as we've seen throughout the year, they've been quite evenly matched in rapid play.
That's right. This is, I think, the clash of simply the 2 best rapid players right now in the world. We see another Sicilian, another open Sicilian. This time, I was going to make a bad pun there, Robert, but no Khan Sicilian, no can do, but an accelerated dragon instead. And Black Sophian Keto Bishop keeps popping up in these encounters. White with another Maroczy bind with the pawn center here, pawns on c4, e4, and the move queen to b6. Does my memory serve me correctly? Didn't this lead to a very quick draw at the Olympiad?
It did, between Ding Liren and Fabiano Caruana, and we've already seen from Magnus Carlsen against Jan Nepomniachtchi. He likes to trick his opponent in these Sicilians with these early queen moves. So that knight's under attack. In the Olympiad, I believe knight b3 was played, and the queen went back to its starting square on the yo-yo string. Back and forth the pieces went, and that was Ding Liren against Fabiano Caruana. So do you think Firouzja will play anything different? It seems like he doesn't know this variation.
Yeah, it is a very rare line. I must admit, I faced it a while ago for the first time, just a few months back in an online blitz game, and I had no idea what to do either. So I think it's just in vogue right now. This is the way to continue playing if you don't want to acquiesce to a repetition and a draw. Putting the knight back on d4 would have been the peaceful way of doing things. Yes, you have to take a timeout before planting the knight on its dream development square on c3, but you still have this beautiful pawn structure, Robert. The top players, they tend to like their space. We say white has more space here simply because white occupies the center and still all the minor pieces on the board. It's cost him a minute, but Firouzja, he found a way to fight on.
He did indeed, but a player who will not be able to fight any longer. As we zoom out of this game, we of course promise to get back to our top division clash. Look at what's going on here, David. On the left-hand side of our board, Wesley So, he's often called a positional player, but he is just going for a massacre on the king side. Dennis has 5 seconds, and his king... Oh, what was that?
Whoa, Wesley So just about getting the job done, it looks like still, but he didn't find the cleanest path. Dennis only has 4 seconds, Robert. I think that's why Wesley is playing a bit fast and loose with his pieces. Wesley's a piece up and about to checkmate the black king, but he let it slip just for one moment.
Like every single piece is hanging on the left-hand side of our screen. The rook on d5, the knight on g5, there's a pawn on f7 about to promote, there's a rook a1 check trying to skewer the rook on h1. This is a complicated position, and before I write Dennis off, we know he's an amazing bullet player, and David, with this many pieces hanging, maybe we tune in at the right moment and he has a shot.
Maybe. Let's not write him off yet. The youngster here, I mean, what a crazy position. White has tripled pawns, doubled pawns as well. He is able to land one check, Denis Lazovic, but ultimately the white king is going to march up the board victoriously. This check can be blocked by several of the white pieces. And, okay, still some accuracy needed. I'm trying to count here, Robert. White's king not continuing its journey. A queen trade imminent, but can white simply take that rook in the corner?
Queen takes c6. What's the follow-up here? The queen is won, but look at Wesley giving up his queen for the greater good. Just domination in a pawn in the 7th rank.
Wesley down to a few seconds himself, though. Still not over. And it might just be the white pawns that march to victory in this game. But okay, let's not take our eyes off it, Robert. This is definitely the craziest position, most irrational position we've seen all day.
And if Dennis somehow makes a draw, he is still in this match. f7, if it's cashed over the rook, c8, a new queen appears. So Dennis is going after the white queen, and whoa, how many checks does he have?
Oh, not enough, it looks like. White has 2 rooks, a knight, 2 future queens coming. Oh, he threatens checkmate in one. Wesley.
Oh my gosh! Wesley just walked into mate in 1 on the left-hand side of your screen.
Oh my God, it was a mouse slip in the end. Wesley was 1 move away from victory, but Dennis, look at that, trying to calm himself down now. What a boss move, checkmating Wesley So. The chess gods smiling on Dennis. Robert, what can we say? That was crazy.
That feels almost like some payback because Dennis was winning the endgame, knight versus bishop, but to win like that against Wesley, who's usually so calm, cool, and collected, maybe he will rattle him from here on out, and we may even get a grand final reset. I cannot believe that we just saw checkmate in 1.
Wow, good call jumping to that game just at the critical moments. We thought we were going to say goodbye to Denis Lazovic. We thought we were going to say congratulations to Wesley So, but they have to go again. And I mean, the psychology at play there, it's going to be crazy. In the meantime, we haven't missed too much on this board. Our Division 1 grand final. It is a Muruxi bind as we predicted, and looking very level right now, Robert.
Yeah, this one looks like it is balanced. The white king about to castle. It's high time he gets out of the center, but black may be striking. B5 is one idea you have to keep an eye on if you're Alireza. D5 not available. It is the Maroczy bind, so both pawns from white staring in that direction. But if you can get some key pawn breaks, then black will gain some much needed space, and we won't be talking about a bind anymore. We'll be talking about how black can play for even an advantage.
That's right. Magnus definitely hoping to fight for space. He doesn't like to kind of just slowly maneuver around without a plan. Magnus always has something on his mind. He always knows the next step. And these types of positions can be tricky. If you're unable to break out here with black, you're just struggling for squares simply for your pieces. So yeah, Magnus definitely with his last move hinting at striking out. Firouzja with a bunch of calculation to do. He's got to look out for this pawn break, changing the nature of the position on every single turn. So this definitely the calm before the storm. I don't think either player too relaxed right now. And just judging by their play so far today, though, Robert, just both players in top form as they aim to eke out some small advantage against the other.
And there's blunder potential in these positions. If you think you're going to play knight d5 for white right now, the queen trade puts the king in an awkward place because there will be some knight checks to win that loose bishop on d4, or a bishop check to hit the king and the rook behind it. So be really careful before you make a move like knight to d5, because I do think it will backfire.
Yeah, no easy moves. That's why Firouzja is burning a bunch of time on the clock. I was going to say, actually, when we jumped in, that's the first time I've seen him ahead on time all day. But that is no longer the case. And wow, this just feels so different from that. I mean, that crazy encounter we saw over with Wesley So and Denis Lazovic, Robert. I think we're all still catching our breath from that.
Well, I think that leaves us with a perfect time while we are struggling to make sense of what's going on in some of these chess games. We do have a special guest that we are bringing on to the show. So welcome Lucas de Grassi, who is a world-renowned racing driver from Brazil, crowned the FIA Formula E World Champion in its inaugural season, and a fierce advocate for sustainability as a UN ambassador for clean air. Instrumental in bringing Julius Baer into the world of Formula E, showing us how committed he is to racing towards a better, more sustainable future. Lucas, welcome on. How are you doing today?
Hello, how are you? A pleasure to be here.
Doing well. How are you? And I see you brought some family with you. How's the family doing on this lovely Tuesday?
Yeah, all good. We are watching a little bit of chess because actually he's the reason I started playing chess. So I have to continue to beating him for the moment. He's doing well. I'm doing well, but not for very long. And yeah, it's good to watch and to understand a little bit of these legends playing.
And Lucas, we've actually met before a couple of years ago on the Champions Chess Tour, thanks to the partnership with Julius Baer. And maybe you can tell us a bit about, you mentioned your journey. I believe your son, Leo, how did he get into chess initially?
Yeah, David, I still own my revenge against you. You managed to beat me on that game. Yeah, I think in this fast-moving world and in racing, as an example, the most important thing is the concentration. And chess is like for a kid. Leo started playing when he was 4. Now he's 6. And for a kid to stay 20 minutes looking at a board with millions of combinations possible and understand and stay there and stay focused actually helps so much when they are at school, when they have to solve a problem, that I incentivize him to play a lot. And I think this is what I want for him, the most that he can get it from chess. Not, of course, if he wants to follow this career and become a chess champion, of course I will support. But just the fact that he's developing this way and he now is playing a little bit of championships here and there, but he's learning these skills would be very important for his life. So I think chess is it's very, very important. And also for a racing driver, because the concentration is very important.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. And well, you're talking about your son. So Leo, I have a question for you, if you can hear me. What do you love most about playing chess with your dad?
I don't know.
He's a bit shy. He likes to play Scholar's Mate with his friends, of course.
And what other kind of favorite activities do you have together, the two of you?
Yeah, so Leo is starting now to play to drive a little bit go-karts. It's it starts, I would say, I don't know where. I mean, I guess pretty much all the chess champions starts when they are maybe 4, 5, 6. In racing, it's similar. You start with very little go-karts and you start building up, but you have to start very early. So by the time you are 7 or 8, you need already to have some skills. So Leo is doing a lot of sports, but racing is also what he likes to do, of course. And it's great. It's a great complement as well because of this. And then on racing, you have all the engineering side, you have all the team side. So you need to have a good mechanic, speak to your to the team principal, understand how to make the car fast. So there is a lot of other components which also, even if he does not become a racing driver, will help him in his life, I think.
Well, Lucas, what kind of coach are you? Because I assume when you watch your son either race or play chess, you're going to have some insights there. So are you the strict coach? Are you hands-off? What's your approach to that for your son?
On the chess side, I'm not the coach. Actually, I'm the one learning at the moment. So zero coach. He goes to the club here and he has the classes. He has a professional coach. On the racing side, I can give a little bit more specialized tips, and I understand a little bit more. So then, of course, everything takes time. So he's on the, let's say, the basic level. I would say that if I would compare him with the ELO rating, he would be maybe, I don't know, 400, 500 in racing. And like chess, you need to understand the basics, the openings, the middle game, the end game. In racing is the same. You need to understand how to make the corners, how to brake, how to accelerate, different types of cars, different types of tracks, and then you progress. So he's on the very early stage. He's having fun at the moment. That's the most important.
And maybe an easier question for Leo. We have two fantastic chess players in front of us. We have Magnus Carlsen, Alireza Firouzja. Who's your favorite chess player?
Magnus. Okay.
Magnus.
No.
Or racer.
I was just explaining who those genius of chess are to him just before we went live, and he will be following. I guess both of them are a big inspiration for everybody.
Well, Lucas, I guess you have to be your son's favorite racer, or does he have somebody else that he follows more?
Who's your favorite racer? Me? Yeah. Otherwise he doesn't care. Otherwise he will not be able to play the simulator later.
And Lucas, you mentioned you're following chess a little bit and you're learning still. What would you say has kind of been the most enjoyable part of learning about the game?
I see a lot of similarities on the strategy side when, for example, you're going for an overtake or when you're racing. So, for example, if you are in a very tight race, if you're fighting somebody very equal in a race, you try to put him in the wrong position, in the wrong part of the track, then to make the attack. A little bit like chess. If you try, try to go for a very simple mate, and the person has experience, you end up losing space or strategy. So you need to create that environment that you attack in the right moment at the right time. And Formula E especially, I was in Formula 1 before, I did endurance racing, 24 Hours of Le Mans and many others, but especially Formula E because electric cars, you need to manage so well the energy. Between the drivers, we say that it's almost like playing chess at 250 kilometers per hour. Because if you attack too much at the beginning, you end up without energy at the end. If you don't attack, then everybody overtakes you. So there is a lot of similarities, a lot of the concentration aspect as well that you can relate to chess. So it's I think it's very productive.
Well, that makes a lot of sense in terms of style. And I guess, Lucas, I have a question for you. You seem to follow chess. Is there a specific player that is a favorite of yours or that you feel like resembles your racing style? Who do you root for on the chessboard?
I don't follow chess that deep to understand the way that players play. But you have to tell me. My style is more like I would move my pieces steadily and build up slowly until I have and even exchange pieces to go to the end game. That will be more my style. Try to manage to get the other driver to the end of the race while the percentage on the battery and the strategy and the tires are more worn out. So I try to make my moves at the end game.
Oh, wow, Lucas, it sounds like you're describing Magnus Carlsen's chess style, or at least Magnus when he's in the mood to grind down his opponents and outlast them. Speaking of which, this has been a very long game. It looks like it's about to be a draw. But Lucas, thank you so much for joining us again. We'll definitely have that rematch sometime.
Thank you. No, but the rematch will be different this time. I have an idea for you, David.
Okay.
I want to put you in a race car, right? And then I'm gonna be in the room playing chess while you'll be playing just by saying where to go, but you'll be going around the track at full speed, and then you have the 5 minutes against 5 minutes, but you'll be in a race car. Then I will see how good you are under the full racing car stress.
Okay, I mean, count me in. I don't know what I've signed up for there, but count me in.
I'll get Julius Baer to help us to do that.
Deal.
That sounds awesome. I mean, maybe don't try this at home for everyone watching, but that sounds really fun. I cannot wait for that. But Lucas, we just saw a draw in the third game, 1.5, 1.5. Before we let you go, who do you think is going to win this match? Will it be Magnus Carlsen, who plays chess like you race, or the youngster in the Clash of Generation?
What happens if it's another draw?
Then we get Armageddon. So a kind of a winner-takes-all thing where the player with the black pieces, they only need a draw, white needs to win, and there will be a time odds between them.
Okay. So, yeah, I mean, hard to say, but I would cheer a little bit for Alireza. I think Magnus won so much that it would be good to see him stepping up.
Well, you just made many fans because Alireza has many of them in the chat rooting for the underdog. But Lucas, seriously, thank you so much for stopping in with us and for loving chess and for making David go in a race car while playing. I cannot wait for that.
That would be great. Thank you very much. I appreciate and for everybody watching us, thank you for your time and see you on the racetrack.
Thank you, Lucas.
Wait, David, you don't even know what you signed up for. I love that you just agreed to that on camera. There's no take-backsies anymore. So you will be racing and playing chess. But for these two here in this match, we were talking with Lucas, having a great time. The game itself was incredibly even. Not all that much happened. The pieces were just traded off, and the players split the point.
That's right. The last game, that third game, was pretty much the opposite of a fast and furious race. It was a long grind. Ultimately, Magnus, Alireza not taking any risk, either of them. However, in the meantime, we did see a winner in Division 3, Fabiano Caruana. Many congratulations to him. He did defeat Vincent Keimer 2.5 to half in their final. We won't see Fabi in the Oslo finals in December, but a great end to the 2024 Champions Chess Tour season for him, Robert.
Fabi, he's just an absolute beast down there in Division 3. It's a bit of a shame that he couldn't find his form earlier in the Champions Chess Tour, but Wesley So, you see him slam the table. That's a rare sight from a player who is so calm, but when you get checkmated in one move and your opponent, he mean mugs it, he storms off in the darkness, sometimes you can even bring the happiest man into a frown. So David, the lights are on in Denis Lazarevic's room. They definitely are on in his brain. Vincent Keimer, the lights are out for his tournament, but we still have a match to talk about in the top division. Fabiano Caruana usually there, but today it's Magnus and Alireza.
That's right. They're going the distance, going to that game for potentially even an Armageddon as well. I don't think we would complain, Robert. That just means more chess for us. And it definitely felt that last game, the calm before the storm, it's rare to see those two play out such a balanced, uneventful draw. But yeah, the next one, I have a good feeling. I have a feeling Magnus will actually try to end it here and now.
Okay, well, we are going to stop by Division 2 just for a moment here. And this is a spicy position. So whatever happened to these endgame grinds where Dennis was better with a good knight against a bishop that was just slowly going back and forth, look at this. I mean, Wesley So has been angered, and if you poke the bear, he may just go and checkmate you.
Yeah, he's certainly trying to. Look at Wesley's position, all of his forces, literally every single piece on the king's side, poised, ready to leap forward if given the opportunity. White in full defensive mode, Robert. I'm looking at this white knight and f1. I don't know what the equivalent rhyme of knight and f8 there is no mate is, but knight and f1, there is no fun for black. And yeah, the white pieces, they don't look too great. Question mark given to white's last move, but the key is that Dennis is suffering for something. And he does have the A pawn, which could be a real a real trooper later on and win this game for white if it ever fizzles out to an endgame. So who are you picking? What are you predicting?
Well, that's the Lucas strategy, is have that little A-pawn, try to outlast your opponent, get them tired, and then push it to the other side while they don't have enough gas or electric energy left in the tank. So we see that A-pawn is an asset, but David, I'm worried about white's king. And you have to take with the F-pawn here. There may be a sacrifice on D4, trying to get a checkmate going along the H-file eventually. So this is, oh wow, I was saying that as like a possible plan. I didn't expect it right here and now, but this could be the type of game needed to allow Wesley to take Division 2.
That's right. He was on the brink of winning that last game, but he has recomposed himself. And yes, the eval bar says level, but how can it be level? Black has such a big attack. The only way white ever holds the balance here is if he finds all the key defensive moves. Already now he slides his king into the corner. I think a very good choice of square. He's left the H2 square vacant so that the white knight can block any potential rook lifts, any potential checks along the H file. But yeah, very, very scary. I fully agree, Robert. If this were a bullet game, I don't see Denis Lazovic surviving any checkmating patterns here. But he does have increment. He does have a few minutes on his clock still. And Wesley, oh, this isn't the type of position either side will be accurate, right?
Can you bring an analysis board up for just a second? Because before that knight went to H2, you know exactly where I'm going with that, David. I mean, Wesley was setting up some nasty ideas. If you played a move like A4, you lose on the spot because rook takes F1. That just hurts. You get rid of the only piece that can block successfully on the H file, and when the queen steps forward to H6, you can block just for one more turn. That is checkmate. The king is squeezed on H1.
Oh, that would have been a really dramatic end to the game, almost as dramatic as the turnaround we saw in the previous clash between these two. Ultimately, though, instead, Dennis does use his knight as a blockader. He keeps that piece alive. Knights are a king's best friend, after all, and Wesley switches angles. He drops his bishop back, hitting a pawn and hoping that he can come up with a second wave of attack, potentially, as we see Division 1, the fourth game about to begin, Robert. We do see Magnus switch strategies. It's the Reti opening as he brings his knight out.
And I was wondering if he'd play in English. He says, David, your guess is not going to be correct this time either, but we have a slower approach on the left-hand side from Magnus Carlsen, and I'm looking at the right-hand side. I mean, that game is really tactical, and Denis Lazovic down under a minute. He's such a tenacious defender. We did just see him win a game that was just truly absurd, checkmating Wesley So, who blundered mate and won. But as we look at the live board on the right-hand side, David, I mean, that white king, it may not be that much longer for the board if Denis makes a single mistake.
Yeah, Denis Lazovic, he won the unwinnable position just one game ago, but he's going to have to do it all over again. The eval bar on the right side of your screens, it might say level, but very much Wesley So having all the fun. And Magnus Carlsen, Alireza Firouzja, no fireworks on that board in the early stages. Robert, we see a double fianchetto. Magnus putting both of his bishops on the longest diagonal. I'm going to say he's half a B3 cowboy there. And yeah, that game yet to warm up.
No, this is just black taking control of the center. White can strike with a move like pawn to D4 to challenge that center, but nothing major, at least at the moment. And we now have, all right, it's half like B3 cowboy, half in English, David. So we're both kind of right?
I'm going to say we're both fully right there. We knew Magnus's strategy, at least. We might not have got the move order correct, but move order, schmooth order. I mean, here it's just a very, very tense position. It's almost a reverse Sicilian, a close Sicilian where, the tension at least will be pushed until the middle game.
Okay, so these two are going at it. We still see the early stages trying to figure out an exact plan. And I just want to quickly go back to our view of the second division, because that one started 1.5, 1.5. And if we can see that board, things are fizzling out. So Dennis with great defense for now, because there could still be an attack against his king. But now we're in even material, David. So the piece has been restored, and that might mean Armageddon in Division 2.
Armageddon very likely now, imminent almost. And it's not just because Dennis has given back the piece, but also because he's got stuff off the board. White's king now still looks a bit awkwardly placed in the corner, but Black simply doesn't have enough ammunition to attack it. So still, I would say Wesley so slightly with the upper hand. The game might continue for a while, but Armageddon definitely a big favorite. So we will update everyone for sure if any twists and turns appear, Robert, just as the Black Queen dives in. I wouldn't relax yet if I were Denis Lazovic.
It is impossible to relax, like in that position on the right-hand side, because Dennis has 20 seconds, and there are all sorts of threats. So these games, I mean, we see on the left-hand side, early going, on the right-hand side, late stages, and maybe the queens come off, and then we can note that these players will likely make a draw with just the remaining material on the same side of the board, so the bishops can't flex their might. But Wesley, he may be thinking for more, David. He is keeping those queens on. Can he actually find a path forward?
Ooh, Wesley, he is showing a bit of frustration that he's even at this point. Bit of a shake of the head there as well on the camera from Wesley. So now might be the perfect moment to bail out with a draw. Black's queen can yo-yo up and down the board, giving checks. And no, he keeps playing on. Wow, Robert, that game, I'm going to say it's going to be a draw. But in the meantime, Magnus Carlsen and Alireza Firouzja, it is Magnus finally occupying the center, finally trying to put pressure on Alireza Firouzja here.
And we see a strike, as you call out, for Magnus Carlsen. And we probably should see a draw, but it's hard to take our eyes off the match on the right-hand side, given that Denis Lazovic is under 10 seconds. But Magnus, he plays d4, Alireza in for a think. And this match has been very different than their first, David. When they played each other a few days ago, both players were a bit below 85% accuracy because the positions were so sharp that perfect calculation was impossible. Now these players are each above 97%. That's what they're averaging. So we see a totally different style the second time around between them.
Yeah, I've got to say, it's a very mature style from Firouzja today. It's not what I expected. Normally he drags his opponents down with him in terms of accuracy, but very cagey stuff. And Denis Lazovic had a winning advantage there, Robert, just for one moment.
That A-pawn, I mean, we didn't think it would play a part in this game, but suddenly it's deep in the endgame, and that could be an advantage. So there must have been a one-move opportunity that was overlooked because both players down under 5 seconds. And we keep saying could be a draw, should be a draw. But now, if we get opposite color bishops, I think at long last, the players can recognize that this game is over. There is no life left. So a draw is going to be the result between Lazovic and Wesley. So there, it is done. And that means Armageddon with bidding in Division 2.
They go again. They have to find even more energy after so many epic fights. But Division 2, the title yet to be confirmed. So it's time to jump back to Division 1, where we do see this clash and just high quality, high accuracy. Call it what you will, Robert. It definitely feels like Alireza, he's trying to fight Magnus on Magnus's terms. He's showing he can hang in the endgame. He can apply some pressure here and there. This position, though, what do you make of it in this fourth encounter?
It seems like relatively standard fare at the moment, where Black has this d6 pawn, which can be a target, and White has this bind. It's not the Marozzi bind, but c4 and e4 pawns, making sure that Black cannot easily break in the center. And Queen c8, I think Magnus's only move, put that in air quotes, King h2, that keeps a slight edge for White. It's pretty obvious. I would be surprised if he plays something else here, David, because that pawn is directly under attack.
Yeah, not too much choice, and there we go. Magnus didn't think too long about defending it. The one thing that made him hesitate potentially is the idea of a knight jump. Knight g4 check would Wow, it is played actually before I have to highlight anything. I was going to say it would result in a trade. Black's bishop pounces and snags a knight in the center. It's level material, but white has an awkward pawn on g4. The downside for Firouzja, however, with that little transition is that the d pawn that you mentioned a few moments ago, Robert, it's easier to attack now. Who do you think this little tactic has favored? Alireza jumping on the opportunity, but is it going to backfire?
Well, objectively, white is doing pretty well, but I feel like Alireza, he wants a messier position. As I was just talking about, that in the first time that these two played, it was a match win for Magnus, but they both were below 85% average accuracy. Here, they're well above that at 97 plus. So for Alireza, he may think of playing bishop e5 here to induce pawn to f4, and only then bring his bishop back, saying your king on h2 may not be the safest piece, but that can backfire, right? Giving white more control, more space, although overextension, that may be a later worry. In the moment, it seems like white is happy to launch those pawns forward.
That's right. White, for now, can protect everything, assuming the bishop drops back. I'm not sure which square, but for example, in front of its own king, as he's just played. Magnus now has a choice. Does he grab that d pawn? It is eternally weak though, so maybe no rush. Or does he simply protect his king side? It does look a bit ugly pushing pawns in front of your own king, but there we go. I think Magnus making a good decision. This pawn structure does look slightly awkward, but it does keep white's king safe for now. And Magnus will likely at some point try to double up rooks on the d-file against this backward pawn, this big weakness, this target. I'm not sure which pieces he wants to exchange, but if he drops his knight back at some point, if the dark squared bishops ever disappear, note that the black king doesn't have many defenders around it. So I would definitely pick white right now, but it's not too dramatic here for Firouzja, Robert.
Oh, he's holding on quite nicely. Rook a to d8, bishop back to c8. You can put that bishop back on its starting square to make sure your d6 pawn is defended. So queen d2 is played, and now there is direct pressure. And I think that white is ready to pick up that pawn. So his bishop f8, that looks too ugly. I might even just lose on the spot because you're opening up the black king. That whole diagonal is open. So David, process of elimination, bishop e5, I say with no certainty whatsoever, but I'm trying to induce your pawn push to f4, and then of course I drop the h6 pawn. So there were no good options, but look at Alireza playing the best move, giving up d6. We both like our material. Is it a pawn that you want to grab for Magnus?
Oh, I know. I would love to grab it. I think I would spend a minute or two at least calculating whether to take this pawn. But once the queens disappear, white suddenly lacks control over the queen side. And I guess black's idea is to strike while possible with the move a4. So for example, maybe if we bring up an analysis board to show what would happen if Magnus were to choose greed right now, queen takes d6, we would likely see a trade. And after pawn to a4, Magnus would need a very strong move here. Eval Bar says there isn't one. Black is doing great because there's pressure on b3 and pawn structures. We talk about connect 4 sometimes being the dream. Connect 3 here, it isn't enough. Pressure on the b pawn. If you ever move it forward, the black knight might move, or you might even counterattack against the white bishop and everything is falling. Once the black knight retreats, or maybe even steps to a4, this pawn is falling, this pawn is falling. Watch out, the a2 pawn might fall. So Magnus says, no, I don't want any of that. And back to the game, he chooses instead to drop his knight back, keeping queens on the board, Robert, because now a4 far less scary while the queen is around, and the bishop tension maybe favoring white if those pieces leave the board.
Can I ask you a question? Instead of queen d2 a few turns ago, because bishop e6 was a very nice reply, I'm just wondering what the best move was for white. And it probably is going to be something that's out of the immediate thought process. Rook d2, queen d2, trying to get on the d-file. I mean, I can look as well. What was the best move there? Knight e2
Robert,
or what else?
Yeah, I think you're right. I've taken a peek as well, and knight e2, he would pretty much get the same position as the game, but he's wasted a move. If now after knight to e2, the bishops get traded, white has basically played queen d2 and then had to go back to b2, so has lost a clear tempo. So it's small things. That shows at this level, I mean, the players are playing natural moves, but it's such small incremental gains. It's not about tactics. It's not about instant wipeouts, instant kind of knocking out your opponent. It's just, okay, I might gain a tempo here, might gain a tempo there, might gain a square. And yeah, it's cagey, Robert. But I'm looking at the clock. Firouzja doesn't seem too comfortable down by 3 minutes.
Well, he's really uncomfortable because he's got no active plans, and this is a strategic choice from Magnus. He went knight e2 now. It was a move late, but you see that knight can hop forward to f4 to d4. Those pawn breaks that Alireza desperately wants to play with success, I think they do typically backfire. It's a little bit too soon. So what to do here for Alireza? I just am not loving this position. I've always hated these from the black side.
Yeah, it's very reminiscent of a King's Indian defense. I know it got there by means of a transposition, a type of English opening in the early stages, but yeah, I've hated these too my whole career, Robert. I play these from the white side more often just because I like the space, and the nightmare scenario, I think in chess in general, right, is lacking a plan. If you don't have a plan, if you don't see any tactics, what to do, it's really uncomfortable just kind of putting your pieces back and forth, queen e7, just wait, sit, and hope that your opponent doesn't have a way to improve and come forward at you. But definitely Firouzja right now, burning even more time on the clock, and I just feel he's uncomfortable. It's not his type of position. White will soon, if we catch up, with the current position. My bad, we had a couple of moves there very quickly, and wow, black definitely struggling, suffering for space.
Yeah, I mean, not much has changed in the sense of the overall picture, where a few moves come in, but white has all of the control here. Black's rooks, if they double in the d-file, that's a very short line for them. On the other hand, white's rooks, they're staring all the way into black's position at the pawn on d6. So yeah, black is just trying to curl up in a ball and defend. White is having fun, and note the a5 pawn is within the queen's sights. So if you ever move that rook from a8, then you may drop a pawn. So I'm going to quickly note that the Armageddon match in Division 2 is underway. Denis Lazovic, Wesley So, this is a really big match for them as they both will head to the Oslo finals in December. But in this game, Lazovic bid 7 minutes, David, very confident with his ability to hold from the black side, giving a 3-minute time advantage to Wesley, who needs to win. And I think Wesley's saying, oh, sorry, do I need to win this game? I'm going to sacrifice a bishop and go for checkmate immediately.
Wow, Wesley, he's really turned it on today. I'm really impressed, I've got to say. The first game of the day, a bit of a bore draw, but ever since, Wesley's been throwing everything he has at Denis Lazovic, and Denis has withstood most of the pressure. Yes, a bit of luck along the way, but Wesley's been going all-out attack, and look at this, the Black King open, Wesley with 3 extra minutes. Yeah, it's exactly the dream type of scenario for Armageddon. Just go all in. That's what you have to do. And Robert, he might be rewarded for his courage, Wesley.
Wesley playing like a boss. We know how well he did in the CCT finals a year ago. He beat Magnus Carlsen in an Armageddon game. He played a vicious attack and was able to take down the world #1. And right now, Denis Lazovic has his hands full. All of White's pieces staring in the direction of the Black King. I don't see him surviving, but we will update everybody if and when a result comes in. But let's go back to our top board because, David, I do think in Division 1, things are looking fantastic for Magnus Carlsen right now. I mean, every single move with purpose, and black is stuck shuffling around.
Yeah. Oh, Firouzja losing his patience. I was about to say it's really uncomfortable for black, but ultimately here, his knight is attacked, and where to jump to? I see tricks, I see real pitfalls in black's future here, Robert. If he jumps back with his knight, white could land tactics such as knight to f5. There would have been nasty pins along the e-file. Instead, knight's on the rim, looking pretty dim, grim, you name it right now. That is the wrong direction. A question mark given to that move, and Robert, it might soon be time for white to go all out and switch play to the other flank, to the king side.
It looks very tempting to go and do that. And if you could imagine the white king being elsewhere, a rook on the h-file may be deadly as the black king will be opened up. But that's a faraway dream. And for now, what Alireza may be relying on is some c5 idea from black. Can I finally gain some space for my pieces? Please let me attack something. So I'm wondering for Magnus at this moment, can he play a move like b5? Is that too risky? I mean, he's attacking the knight, but maybe he's opening up files in good ways for Alireza.
I like it too. That was the first move that drew my attention as well, Robert, and I think Magnus will be calculating the direct methods, whether it's in the center, kingside. I mean, we talk about space. We've talked about that. Well, I have at least a lot today, and I mean, look at these pawns. Just all of the options. That's the one downside for Magnus. Too much choice, perhaps, and he does go for b5. We cannot blame him there. Maybe not the most accurate move, but putting Firouzja under immediate pressure, white maintaining the advantage, of course. And now things have changed. You mentioned open lines. Still, it is the d6 pawn that's the big target. And I'm just wondering how white reacts to his weakness on c4. At least black now has something to hope for, Robert, despite only having 1 minute on the clock.
That was my exact concern. I forgot for a moment the rook was on e2 rather than d2, because then this would look even more powerful. But for the moment, black can put pressure on c4. Maybe rook d4. It's an odd-looking move, but it does defend that 4th rank. And for Alireza, he's down to 1 minute 6 seconds, David. And this is a very difficult position to find ideas in. And as you mentioned, all those white pawns on the 4th rank, one of them may push, and he gives up c4 because he wants d6.
Wow, Magnus showing just his intentions there. Aggressive intentions. He's giving up a pawn. It does fall with a hit on the white queen. I'm not sure where the white queen will slide. Most natural square, I would say maybe e3 or f3. But yeah, he's zoned in now on the d6 square. Eval bar doesn't approve, but Magnus, he's talked about bluffing before. This was actually given a double question mark, Robert. That's not me. That's the engine, because black can break out. But how difficult is that with 45 seconds on the clock?
I think d5 is a move that Alireza will, and there he finds it, but I don't think it's the end of the story. I mean, for Magnus, he needs to keep his composure. We've seen him in previous games when he overlooks something. He's like, what's wrong with me? How am I missing that kind of stuff? But the good news for Firouzja is queen c5 is on the docket. If he can get those queens off the board, no longer are we talking about any sort of checkmate, and black is a pawn ahead thanks to his latest capture on c4. So this is a moment where Magnus needs to be a bit careful. And okay, we are seeing e5. The white knight can slide back to d4 in most of these positions, David. So it's still advantage Magnus.
Still advantage Magnus on board and clock, but do not underestimate Alireza, despite having 30 seconds. Yeah, I think we've all known his bullet prowess for years now. He's had some fantastic results. He seems to up his game, Robert, with no time, and now trying to trade knights. Very wise. The black knight might jump back to the defense if need be, towards the king side, if allowed. Really key that white cannot jump into the d6 square, because black can simply snap that knight off. There's a pin along the e file. Magnus, he's running out of ideas here. I really think he missed this d5 move from afar, and I would probably advocate for dropping the knight back, but black's got a pawn to suffer for. Black's definitely in this fight.
Knight d4, a really tempting first move. Knight d6, as you mentioned, not available. Rook takes d6. That would be a free piece. Knight takes c7, and then bishop takes d5 afterwards. That is something that Magnus can go for if he feels like there will be some winning chances at the end there. I mean, white's pawn structure on the king side, it still is quite advanced, but that can backfire because it could leave his king open. So the time advantage is also being cut into because Magnus knows how consequential this single move will be.
Yeah, I don't like it. I just really feel that Magnus has lost control, and this is a cautionary tale about rushing. Black had no space, had no plans, and Magnus has basically forced Firouzja to find some good moves, and he's going for that latter option you mentioned, Robert, but once the dust settles, once everything is traded off, it's your other point, the fact that the white king might be vulnerable from behind on the 2nd rank, and Magnus is pretty much committed to trying to checkmate black now, otherwise this all might start to collapse for white.
Still a bit scary for Alireza. Like f takes e5, rook takes e5 might already be the beginning of the end for Firouzja, because the queen and rook line up very nicely in the e-file. And if you can't take on e5, is that queen going to come up to d4 next, trying to do the same thing? So the queen steps forward, but 20 seconds remaining, David, for Firouzja, and there are plenty of options here for Magnus to keep things complicated.
Yeah, Firouzja keeps finding fantastic moves, though. I think his plan might be simple, to even just capture this pawn, and as long as the black king hides on the 7th rank, the rook will protect against any checks on it. And if he takes this pawn, the white king will no longer have the safe hiding spot of h3. So suddenly, again, those checks might come back to bite white. Wow, Firouzja, he definitely plays best with 1 minute on his clock, Robert. It's crazy how he keeps finding the best move every single time, despite the enormous pressure on him.
And I'm just looking for Magnus for ways to play for a win, and it might actually cause him to lose the game. So be really careful at this current turn. He plays queen d3. I was thinking rook d6, but I realized the a2 pawn was also hanging with check. So he keeps the rook defended. As you're pointing out, g6 is loose. And 12 seconds for Firouzja. He makes a mistake here, but what is the knockout? e6?
Oh, that is so difficult, e6, Robert. We're both reacting because That is almost superhuman. Pawn to e6. It's due to the fact that the black queen is tied down defending her g-pawn, that she cannot go and grab that. And if white can establish a strong pass pawn, that might just overwhelm the black army. There's no checks. c2 is covered right now. The black queen can check. The white king will slide, and Magnus finds it. He finds the key move. He's winning.
Of course he does. Magnus Carlsen found the key defense. Now he finds what should be a winning move, but still difficulty ahead. Quick note that Wesley So did defeat Denis Lazovic in that Armageddon game. He wins Division 2 and the big prize there. But come on, David, what's going on here? How should white proceed? Because e6 is loose. And f5? He's just thrown all his pawns forward.
Wow, brilliant from Magnus Carlsen. He knows he needed to cut the black queen's communication with the e6 pawn. Now he can slowly, surely advance this pawn forward. First he gives a check. I was going to say eliminate the black rook. There we go. Maybe not the most accurate, but still winning. And once the black rook is traded, it's the e-pawn that will crown Magnus's glory. And it's just one check. The white king will hide. I'm not sure which square. But Robert, he's on the brink now.
And you see that it's not about the pawn quantity, but the quality. The e6 pawn about to become on the 7th rank. Can he just go e7, or should he trade rooks first with queen d7 to follow?
Ooh, both look very tempting. Magnus with 25 seconds now. Alireza with just 2 seconds on the clock. My first inclination would be to trade rooks, just because I'm scared of a counterattack against the white king. But Magnus, he could well be tempted to push first. Still, just 2 squares away from touchdown, 2 moves away from glory, potentially. Can he trade queens, Robert? Queen to d7, queen to d8 look tempting. You don't want to allow any counterplay, but with queens off, there we go.
Ooh, nice try from Firouzja. 5 seconds from Magnus as well. He's in time trouble all of a sudden, and if the queens are traded, the black king is in time, so he plays g4, which is a great move. And how Alireza proceeds, I think you can even trade queens, but there's the outside pawn. Wow.
Wow, a few seconds each. Magnus reacts. Has he missed this move? There's going to be a bunch of checks. White is still winning, but Magnus doesn't realize the white king has to run, sprint forward.
He goes to the wrong square. Yeah, f2 comes with check. The king goes back to e2, but that was a mistake. Every single obvious-looking move is wrong.
Wow, Alireza had a draw by a miracle there. We'll show that later, hopefully. But Magnus now, the king is going to run behind enemy lines to seek safety. If the checks dry up, white wins. White makes a second queen with check, and it's over. I think we're going to see the last few moves of this grand final of the Julius Baer Generation Cup, Robert.
Oh, only a few checks remain. The white king has snaked out and is helping to promote a new pawn. This has been incredible, David. First, he saves that endgame, that finding that the king could hide in the corner, and now he finds that his king can hide behind enemy lines, and the checks are running out.
Oh, be careful, don't step forward, you would lose the game. Magnus would have been checkmated if he'd walked forward to the f7 square. Now he's zigzagging his way back to safety, but maybe I called it too soon. It's not yet over. He's yet to find the safe haven for his king. He needs to hide behind the black b pawn, potentially. He needs to get in and back and use that pawn as a shield.
And it's almost like checkmate against that white king over there, but it cannot be caught, and the king is doing exactly what you said, David. It is running to the other side. You don't get a new queen for that, but you will get a new queen when that pawn successfully goes to e8, but the checks have continued.
Wow, the checks have continued, but no more, and Magnus Carlsen wins on time, wins the Julius Baer Generation Cup. It was a king walk. It was close. Magnus, a sigh of relief on his face, Robert, but a deserved winner in the end after an epic battle. Alireza came so close, showed such good chess, but there we go. Wow, such small margins at the top level.
There is so little that separates these two, but when it came down to the critical moments, it was Magnus Carlsen who found the optimal replies. First, he saves what was a losing bishop endgame, then he wins that one with his king in the wide open, the enemy king in some danger, and a pass pawn sealed the deal. Magnus Carlsen, he wins the Julius Baer Generation Cup. David, it was oh so close, but Magnus, he is still the world #1.
Magnus is still the world #1. He's still the player to beat. And yeah, Alireza, we can only commiserate with him because he played so great the whole day today. And yeah, Magnus in the end, it was just that extra gear that he found when defending difficult positions earlier and when holding on to his advantage in this final game. And Robert, I think we need an actual replay of the all-decisive clash there, that fourth game, because that was where Magnus ultimately clinched it. And it was crazy in the end. So many twists and turns, but it will be time for our Rubik's move of the day. And it was here after Black went astray. Here, he's holding Black if he had enough time simply to capture the e5 pawn and spot that he was defending g6 indirectly. Instead here, after queen takes g4, the only winning move here for Magnus and our Rubik's move of the day, the beautiful pawn to e6, and this caused Black a puzzle he could not solve. The problem for Black is that e6 is untouchable. This would allow the white queen to swoop in decisively, capture a pawn with check. Instead, Black trying to defend, and another follow-up to the best move, pawn to f5, closing the door behind the Black queen, and after this pawn was captured, a check and an elimination of Black's best piece. It was not easy after this. We did see a bit of a twist a bit later on after this trade. White on the brink of promotion to a second queen, and if we fast forward, Alireza had one momentary opportunity with these checks to hold the draw. Magnus stepping to the wrong square. A check from behind would have held here because White cannot cross the barrier of the d-file. If he walks across, there would have been this skewer, but ultimately Alireza didn't find it. He stepped his pawn forward with a check first, and Magnus was suddenly safe. He captured the f2 pawn, and later, with that king walk, ended in the winning position, the clincher. Now, pawn to e8, inevitable with a discovered check. Magnus, tournament winner yet again.
It was a cinematic finish there for Magnus Carlsen, a walk to remember with his king, and that was your Rubik's Make Your Move of the day. The Rubik's Cube is celebrating 50 years with the Make Your Move campaign. In the past 50 years, 1 in 7 people across the entire world have attempted solving the puzzle. Like chess, the art of a Rubik's Cube is its complexity and the eternal human values of curiosity, perseverance, and creativity. With over 43 quintillion permutations and only one solution, what's your next move? Visit go.chess.com/Rubik's50 or use the command Rubik's in chat to explore. But what we are going to explore next here is an interview with Magnus Carlsen. Chat, get your questions in. We will try to ask Magnus them, but he has won Division 1 here at the Julius Baer Generation Cup. Interview with Magnus Carlsen to come in just a few.
I think Vidit shifted to Mumbai to get a movie made on his life. When he approached the producer, the guy said, "Whoa, Gukesh is here, I can't believe it."
I think this has happened to me though. Somebody came...
it's a true story.
Yeah, no, not producer part. But somebody came and said, "Oh, I'm a big fan. Gukesh, can I take a photo?"
At least it means you look young. Or they expect...
One way
half
glass full, yeah? Glass half full.
Today's story, this is my tweet. I didn't know that, thanks for your input, the world changed so drastically.
I think I'm a bit disappointed with the mean tweets.
Yeah. Well, I mean...
Like, I expected
we don't have
better
many
rows.
Yeah. This tweet of mine, it's a little deeper. I made a tweet at some point, and then about Tuesday, and then a content creator I know copied that without giving me any credit, which is fine.
I mean, that's now happening for tournaments also.
Exactly. And then he made a tweet, today's Thursday, and then I copied that. So that was kind of the inside joke with that content creator, who is not a very large one, but he knows who he is.
Is he born to stream or?
Actually, yes, but he's not from India, so yes. So there was some inside joke there, but yeah, it's lost by this point. What is that?
9 out of 10 doctors agree that Colgate is the best toothpaste. Vidit is the 10th doctor.
Yeah,
what does it mean?
I don't know, but it's funny.
What does it mean?
I don't know what it means. I think it's funny. It's just funny. I don't know what they're trying to say.
I say that Colgate is not the best toothpaste.
No, they're just saying that somehow you are, like, you are that special one in a bad way.
It's too nuanced from my understanding.
It does sound very funny though, so we will give them that. After winning Title Tuesday 1, Anish has filed a petition with God to rename all days of the week as Tuesdays. Not funny. Not funny. No, not funny.
All I ever wanted was like to be accepted by people and this and that. But I'm walking into hip hop, solving Rubik's Cubes and talking about anime and Star Wars, and it's like not a vibe. But through it, I was always myself. Oh man, the feeling I had the first time I saw the Rubik's Cube was like, it's only begun. Because I was like, it took me that long to do it. And I just wasn't satisfied. Then I'm like, okay, cool, what's next? And that's also how I feel about chess. I love chess and I love the Rubik's Cube because you can't beat them. It's like a game you can't beat. That's what's so cool about it. And the only person that you're really essentially playing against is yourself. Yeah, I was like 24 years old and I got a Rubik's Cube and I went on YouTube and I told myself I was not gonna leave the room until I finished it. And I was in the room for 14 hours.
Hello everyone and welcome back to Grand Final Day here at the Julius Baer Generation Cup, where we have seen all divisions end and we're joined by our Division 1 winner. Congratulations, Magnus Carlsen.
Thank you.
Magnus, how are you feeling after that, the latest epic clash against Alireza?
Yeah, I'm feeling great. I thought the first game today was of very, very high quality, even though it was super complicated, and that sort of set the tone a little bit. So I made like an incredible blunder in the second game, and then third game, really nothing happened, and fourth, yeah, that was a bit of a mess, but I felt like I was always pressing at the very least. So I felt like I was rarely in a lot of danger today, even though like I guess I was lost in the second game, but I don't think any of us actually realized that. So I felt like this was my best match so far, and it feels really good to finish off with that, because I think also he played better than he did in our first match.
Yeah, it did seem like a very high quality match today, as you mentioned, Magnus. And I wanted to ask, you mentioned that blunder in the second game. How quickly were you able to reset, and how kind of far in advance did you spot that you could give up your bishop and go for that fortress in the corner?
Yeah, it was a bit strange because I was trying to be kind of slightly better, and then I realized I'm not, so I went for this knight d4, and basically that is the equivalent of a draw offer. And then when he played bishop, he played his move rook c8 a couple of moves later. I'm thinking like, I have a line with rook b4, e5, trade, bishop b2, and so on. That just clinches the draw immediately. And so I'm thinking, well, maybe if I take the pawn, then like once he gives a check, he has no good square for his bishop. And I didn't realize before he took my pawn on f4 that actually protects the bishop. And yeah, obviously that was a strange situation. And I mean, I saw very quickly that that I can take an h4 and run the king over. I was considering like, should I not play bishop g3 because it's like a bit too obvious? But then I thought like it's the most logical move, regardless, to prevent this king from going to d6 as well. So I thought, yeah, why not? But yeah, of course, it was a huge relief when he played h4 because then I knew. I mean, I thought it was likely to be a draw regardless, but then I knew it was clinched.
Yeah, that was a sneaky trick, Magnus, and I think something that we all learned today in that endgame. And you mentioned that it felt like a really high-quality match. Was that something conscious about the openings, the style you played today? It was higher accuracy than most of Alireza's matches throughout the week.
Yeah, obviously it's helped by the third game where, we don't make a lot of mistakes. And I would say, like, first of all, it was the first game, which was just a lot of fun, to be honest, because we both had to navigate some really, really complicated lines, and I feel like we both did it, if not perfectly, then really, really well. So that gave me a really good feeling. I felt like I was just a little bit more on today, even though the last game got a little bit out of control. Those things happened with little time. I mean, I think I did all right there as well.
Mm-hmm. And Magnus, you will be meeting Alireza again in the tour finals at the end of the season in Oslo. You've mentioned it before, but how much are you looking forward to that event, and what are you expecting now that the 8 participants are known?
No, it's gonna be great. And as I said, I'm super happy to play my best match in the last one. Like, I think for the rest of the year, I will only be playing Rapid and Blitz. So it's good to see that I'm playing myself into shape. And yeah, the finals are gonna be awesome. Good field, and yeah, a rare chance to play a tournament in Oslo. So that's great.
And you mentioned Rapid. You're actually traveling, I believe, to the Global Chess League tomorrow. Are you looking forward to that event?
Yeah, honestly, the Global Chess League is my favorite team event. I think the format is really good. Like, it takes like a little bit of time to understand, but once you understand, you can see that it's really exciting because the matches are very unlikely to be drawn, and having these different categories and so on makes the games like makes like the results like a little bit more random. It's like less likely to be a lot of boring draws, and you often end up in these situations where because the team playing white in every game has to win, then it's like 1 week each, and white is pressing in a couple of games, and all gets very, very tense at the end. So and besides that, with the cap structure they have, the teams end up being fairly evenly matched, which makes for good matches. So I think it's well done, and I'm certainly hoping that our team could do well this year.
Yeah, it'll be great to see you in action again so soon. And Magnus, before we let you go, a few questions from our chat. Krishna21234 asks, is snacking the best part about playing from home, and how much does it affect or improve your chess?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think when you're playing for a few hours, it's good to get like a little bit of energy in between games, and yeah, obviously playing from home, it's quite comfortable in that sense.
And S. Martin RQ asks, is the younger generation weaker than the older generation in some way, in some aspect of the game?
I think they're weaker in some, better in some. But the good thing about being the younger generation is that they have time to improve. But, they need to.
Very diplomatic there, Magnus. And final question from Cher. How do you keep improving when you're already the best?
I don't think I'm necessarily improving. I think I'm learning more and more. So that's the most important thing, but that doesn't necessarily lead to you playing better. So I think the answer is I don't know. I try and learn, and hopefully, not fall off too quickly. Try and keep up with what's going on. But I mean, being like the best at something doesn't mean that you cannot improve. Like I am not very good at chess if you like compare it to perfect play, but I'm like little, usually like a little bit less bad than the others, and that's the way humans are at chess. It's as simple as that. And I don't think like I'm gonna make any like grand discoveries that's gonna change my outlook on chess completely, but there are always little things that you can improve and learn. So
yeah, I think we can all agree that you're doing pretty decently, Magnus, and that just leaves me to say many congratulations, a winner of the Julius Baer Generation Cup, and best of luck in London next week, and we'll see you in Oslo for the tour finals.
Thank you so much, David.
Congratulations, Magnus. And there we have it. Magnus Carlsen, the winner of the tournament. He pockets a cool $30,000 and 100 tour points, as if he needed them, Robert. What a performance from him.
Yeah, those tour points, definitely not necessary, but the 30K that he gets to put in the bank, he will gladly accept that. And well, we had 8 players enter the top division. Magnus Carlsen, as is often the case, he goes on top. But David, Alireza did give him everything that he could handle.
Yeah, Alireza, shout out to him. He produced a fantastic performance on this last day, actually throughout the week, but ultimately it's a bit of a coin toss. When you face Magnus Carlsen, even at your best, it might not be quite enough. And it will be nice, Robert, to see Alireza there in the tour finals. I think we're all looking forward to it now.
We definitely are. We know the 8 contestants that will be in Oslo, Norway, and one of those players will be Wesley So, who took down the 2nd division. It was a very tense final match. We saw it go to Armageddon, but Wesley, he started at the top. He remained at the top. He did not lose a single match. As you see, he made it all the way through, beating Denis Lazovic there 3-2. But David, that was a true nail-biter.
It was indeed. We saw some crazy swings in evaluation. We saw Denis Lazovic on the brink of a beautiful endgame masterpiece suddenly collapse. Wesley So take the win. We saw Wesley one move away from wrapping up the whole division. Suddenly mouse slip and blunder a checkmate. But we will see both of those again very, very soon. 2 great competitors, and it was a real fight today.
Well, we will definitely see Wesley soon in Oslo, Norway. And for those of you who want more chess, we know that the 4th leg has come to a conclusion for the moment. There will be an interview with Wesley So after this, but I want to talk about a special Team Chess event. Team Chess Battle returns. This time around, 16 of your favorite chess personalities are teaming up and miking up for a trash-talking chess event like no other. Are you Team Levy and Canny? Team Alice Lee and Fun Master Mike of Chess Kid? Perhaps the mother-daughter Cramling duo? No matter who you support, the action begins October 7th on Chess.com streams. Don't miss it. Use the command TCB in chat or visit go.chess.com/TCB2. Note how Danny Wrench, he runs this site. He's not included on that graphic, but he teams up with John Bartholomew, #TeamScandy. So do be on the lookout. Watch this event because it is sure going to be a lot of fun. But for those of you who are still sticking around, we have an interview with Division 2 winner Wesley So. Put your questions in chat now. We will try to feature them. The break coming up. Afterwards, we will be joined by Division 2 winner of the Julius Baer Generation Cup and tour finalist Wesley So.
Okay.
Were you afraid of the whole country watching to embarrass yourself? Wonderful.
It's edited. I think it's edited.
Yeah, it's clearly.
But it's close to how it was, but it's a little bit edited. Yeah.
Not a little bit. It's completely edited.
No, but it really was like that. Yeah. Like the Eval Bar in Hikaru's videos. Yeah. Right? Edited. edited afterwards by the editor. Not how it really happened. Afterwards, taken from somewhere else and placed in the middle. And that's squeezed.
You know, before this, I thought I would be the one getting into trouble. Now I think it's you.
Lawyered. Okay.
As VD, I would play rook e8, bishop c3, queen h4, queen b2, queen h5, and then bishop e2, queen g5, bishop f1, bishop f7, h4.
Better than Hikaru's lines. Better than those lines that Hikaru rattles out.
Hikaru learned from somewhere.
Yeah, because Hikaru likes that thing.
Hikaru was in Norway. This was
yeah, but Hikaru's was like completely off. Like I checked it afterwards with the engine. The line makes no sense at all.
Firouzja,
yeah, it makes no sense at all, that line.
I think only the head bob was missing here. Like Hikaru is doing this.
Ah, true. Wow! Wow!
That's a good one. We have to watch again.
No, this is a good one. Yeah.
It's a really good one.
Yeah. Some good editing there. Wow!
Nice.
Ooh, slick. Okay.
Nice.
Oof, awkward. Yeah, this whole thing is like
but I think
it's embarrassing when you play candidates and you
he does it on, like, you know, he knows the content game. So it's not like Hikaru doesn't know the spelling of Nepo.
No more fancy openings, no swashbuckling middle games, no attacks. We're here to tell you about what comes after that. I'm taking the time for prophylactic moves in this apparently pretty sharp position. Probably at this point the knight is better, but the game shows that it's possible to play around it.
Welcome back to AniChess. AniChess is modernizing chess by infusing the timeless game with an innovative spell mechanic. Here, we see the players starting with a Roy Lopez.
Bound over bounds, where freedom resides.
There, we saw Bishopt 2.0, leaping the bishop over one piece in its path.
A sidestep dance, enhance your advance.
That pawn just used shift, moving it one square horizontally.
Welcome aboard, fresh pawn.
And there we see an extra pawn in play from the spell House Recruit.
A diagonal dash, quick as a flash.
An interesting play to slip the knight onto f4. AniChess invite-only alpha is coming soon. Register with code CCT to secure your spot and get invited when the experience launches. Push your classic chess skills to their limits.
We are delighted to be joined by your winner of Division 2 here in the Julius Baer Generation Cup, Grandmaster Wesley So. Wesley, congratulations. You did make it all the way through without losing a match, but as we saw in that last match, it was quite tricky there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, yeah, first of all glory to God, to Jesus for the win today. I actually think maybe this is my first and only victory of the year, of the entire year. So it's a big deal.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, oh, sorry, go ahead, Wesley.
I finished many second places this year, but I also didn't play that much. But I think this is my first and only victory, so I'm very happy and very pleased, obviously.
Well, how does it feel to end the year on such a positive note? Because you did qualify for the tour final, so is it giving you some more confidence heading into December?
Yeah, for sure. Actually, it's funny. My mother and I were just talking about it yesterday, that the beginning of the year didn't start very well for me. Like, I lost my candidate spot to Firouzja. I didn't qualify for the Grand Chess Tour next year, although I'm still hoping to get by rating. Also, the Olympiad, I didn't start well, but now things are getting better. We won a silver, which is big. Levon and I played very well here. Also, Fabiano played very well. So obviously, big congratulations to the American team, and also to Magnus, of course, for winning Division 1. But now I have many tournaments coming up for until the end of the year. I pretty much play nonstop. Like I'm also going to India, and then I have the US champs, then some chess nights, and then also they're putting up, I think, a couple of tournaments in St. Louis in December to try to give Fabiano as good a chance to qualify for the candidates, the circuit points, and I'm very pleased also to qualify in Oslo. So the next 3 months is just going to be all chess, just going to be very focused on chess, try to get back what I lost, and it's nice.
Well, Wesley, I mean, your fans are going to be thrilled to watch you play in all of these tournaments, and I'm going to talk to you about happy things, but first I do have to ask you, the checkmate in 1, there was a mouse slip with rook e4 instead of rook e3. How were you able to recover from that? Because we could see it. You were clearly very frustrated by not winning the match there and then.
Well, I've suffered far worse in my long career. So I'm immune to losing now. I've lost too many games, even this year alone. So stuff like that, I'm immune. But in a serious note, I think I had a big advantage today because he has to beat me in 2 matches. And I think if you're in the winner's bracket, you just have a huge advantage, not only psychologically, but also physically and mentally, because Dennis also has to win a lot more matches than I did going through the loser's bracket. And it's rare to see someone who you have to beat twice lose. It's just, he has to win so many games. So coming into today's match, I was very confident. I mean, Dennis is a very strong kid. He's very good online. And and also in game 2, I had no business winning that game. So I kind of got a bit excited in game 3. I thought I was a few seconds from winning. It was a great game, by the way. Like, also before when he played g6, I forgot I could just play knight g6, and after hg, queen h4, queen h7, and I forgot the pawn on g6 is hanging. So it would have been a great way to finish the tournament. But of course, if I lost, I would be kicking myself. But even if I did lose, I still have another chance to bounce back. So and also Division 2 this year Division 2 this time was not very strong. So actually losing to Arjun Erigaisi might have been a blessing in disguise.
Well, you
if
did.
I played Division 1, if I played Division 1, I probably wouldn't earn 15,000.
Well, you made the most of it. And Wesley, I have a question about you. You are such an experienced player, but do you feel like you're still learning stuff about your own chess? I mean, in the Olympiad, we heard your interview after losing to Ivanchuk, but then at the end, you caught fire to beat Pragananda and then Wei Yi in back-to-back games. So do you feel like you've found some new things out about yourself?
Well, I don't know. I'm 30 years old, so probably not so much. But we had such a great team spirit in the Olympiad. We actually missed you very much, Robert. So hopefully 2 years from now you can. But we had a great team. I mean, we had the best captain in the world in John Donaldson. We have a great leader in the team, which is Levon Aronian, who's very experienced. And he always gives us tips and advice on what to play. And of course, Fabiano started with 4 wins. So I don't think we would have won the tournament without Levon, because we need a leader. And in the end, we were playing so well because we got our secret strategy, which is just to sit Ray, and he helped us prepare some openings. So actually, that opening in the last game, Wei was Ray's idea. He sent me some files, so thank you. Thanks a lot for that. But I mean, I think in order to play good chess, you just need full motivation and hard work and dedication and sacrifice. And if you're willing to do that, I think you can do very well. At the beginning of the year, I didn't have such motivation because just was a very slow year for me. But now I have tournaments coming up, and I really hope to do well and play better. Maybe one thing I realized from the Olympics is I need to broaden my opening repertoire a little bit, because it's hard to win games if you only play the Berlin with black.
Well, I think that many newer chess fans can take advice from you on what openings to play and not. I know you've made courses before, and it's always great to hear your thoughts. But there are many fans who have questions for you, Wesley, so I'm just going to ask you a couple of them. Yeah, we're going to start with Farah05, who asks you, not about when your next tournament is, but when will you start your streaming career?
Yeah, that's a good question. Unfortunately, I don't think I'm very good at it. Also, it doesn't fit my lifestyle very well. But I miss the days when I did Banter Blitz for Chess24. That was very nice, playing with the fans and sharing my ideas. But I don't think I will ever have a full streaming career. Although that being said, I enjoy watching Hikaru from time to time. Also titled Tuesday.
Okay, well, no streaming career yet, but maybe some time to time we'll get you on. But another question we have is about actually your chess, and it's from Bukunmi Kuti, who asked, do you see yourself playing the next candidates and possibly, on from there, the World Championship? Are you dedicated to trying to qualify?
Well, right now my focus is just to playing good chess, try to qualify for the Grandmaster next year, increase my rating. But I was thinking about the other day, and I heard what Hikaru said about his focus being the next two candidate cycle. And I think at some point I have to start trying, because why else am I playing chess, right? Like I have, doesn't make sense to play chess if you have no ambition to try to win the world champion title. So I think I have to start thinking about it at some point. But right now my focus is just to increase my classical rating and try to play better.
Well, you talk about ambition there, Wesley, and you mentioned changing from some of the openings. Do you feel a little bit more ambitious now, actually, in how you approach the game?
Well, not more ambitious, but I think I'm more motivated to try to play good chess. Try to avoid some of the mistakes that I've gone through. But yeah, as I said, you need to set up a goal in your chess career, because without any goal, you're not gonna lead anywhere. So yeah, I think I have to at some point. I mean, I'm 30 years old.
Well, you're still young, Wesley, and you have much fun ahead of you. And I'm going to end this interview with one fun question for you. It's from Dan Joa, and the question is, Wesley, how are the cats doing?
They're very good. They're getting bigger and bigger. They're 1.5 years old. Maybe I have some photos here. Let's see. I think I have one really good photo that taken the other day. But it's nice because whenever I don't have tournaments, I can just chill at home. So here's one recent one. I guess you can't really see it, yeah? No?
Oh, it's starting to get there. Oh.
Where is it?
No.
Oh, there.
Oh,
there's one.
That's adorable.
He's getting big. Yeah, unfortunately, what's wrong with my camera? There, he's got blue eyes. Oh, she's got blue eyes.
Oh,
so it's nice.
That's so cute.
But it's nice because actually my father went back to the Philippines, and the cats miss him. So they wake me up at 2 in the morning, 4 in the morning to try to get some hugs. Just last night. It's good, yeah.
Well, Wesley, I wasn't expecting the interview to end on quite this wholesome of a note, but seriously, congratulations. It was a great performance. You beat Denis Lazovic, who you'll see in Oslo for the finals, but we'll see you first at the U.S. Championship in India, so many events, but ultimately we'll be very happy to see you at the CCT finals. So congratulations on that, Wesley.
Thank you. Also, big congratulations, by the way, to your wedding last year. I didn't get the right. Was it last year? Yeah.
We haven't had the wedding yet, but I do appreciate that. I got engaged, so thank you, Wesley.
Okay, well, I'm trying to move you, get it going.
I appreciate that push. I feel like that's just the gentle reminder I needed that all the planning that is already underway. So thank you, Wesley, so much. I do appreciate the kind wishes.
Thank you.
Wesley So, everybody, with his cats, dominating Division 2, surviving in Armageddon in the end. But David, I mean, Wesley, we know what he's capable of, and we heard it from his own mouth there. He is getting a bit more ambitious with his opening choices. He realizes that he's now 30, maybe a couple candidate cycles left. He wants to get there. He wants to play for a world championship.
That's right. It's great to see Wesley in top spirits there, in a great relaxed mood. I really want to remind him 30 is not old. Life begins at 30. The best year's still ahead. He should take inspiration from his teammate, Levon Aronian, who's still going strong well into his 40s now. And yeah, I mean, age is no barrier in chess. We've seen that before, Robert. And Wesley, I'm sure there are many successes still to come, maybe starting with some of those events that he mentioned.
Well, all I can think about now is that he put me on the spot there about how I have to get going on some things outside of this chess commentary. But Wesley, I mean, he did credit his Olympiad teammates. You heard him talking about Ray Robson. People don't always realize, David, how much work goes on behind the scenes. And Ray Robson wasn't playing, but he was assisting in the preparation, and it really came in huge for Team USA.
That's right. Magnus as well mentioned team chess as being kind of separate. It's a whole different dynamic. It's nice to see top players working together, sharing, teammates pushing each other on, whether that's with kind of the emotional support, whether that's with actual chess notes, chess files. And these top players, we've seen it before. We've seen it in today's finals, all of them. Tiny margins at the top level, and anything you can do to push yourself, elevate yourself. That's a key part of the game.
It is indeed, and with Magnus Carlsen's win in the top division, Wesley So in Division 2, Fabiano Caruana in Division 3, these Super Grandmasters have tied the bow on what has been a gift of a Champions Chess Tour season. Reminder, everybody, that Fabiano Caruana, he would demolish the field. He lost his very first game, David, in Division 3 against Haik Martirosyan. He didn't lose a single game after that. In fact, he only drew, sprinkled in there a couple draws, but he dominated this last division, and he beat Vincent Keimer twice.
Yeah, just phenomenal. I mean, I can barely comprehend winning that many games in a row earlier in the event. Just dominating world-class opposition. That's Fabiano Caruana at his best. And like you said earlier, Robert, it's a real pity not to see him in Oslo for the tour finals, but he'll be back, and it's been a great season for him.
Yeah, and another couple events, if you had a few more legs to stand on in the Champions Chess Tour, he may very well have made it to Oslo, but he did not. These are our final tour standings. We want to thank our presenting partner, Julius Baer, the official wealth management partner of the Champions Chess Tour. And as we look at these final standings, Alireza Firouzja may not have won the Generations Cup, but he did win the #1 overall points, at least, but prizes. David, you look at number 2, Magnus Carlsen. He actually won the most money. And then we look all the way down to number 8, Levon Aronian. He sneaks in there. He was able to get past players like Fedoseev and Grischuk, Vincent Keimer, Denis Lazovic, Wesley So, and Jan Nepomniachtchi. Those are all your participants in the season and finals, thanks to the leaderboard.
Yeah, many thanks to Julius Baer again. That's some decent cash prizes. Hopefully all of this as well is inspiring for the young players at home watching. This could be you someday. The division system has been fantastic at giving all of these Grandmasters opportunities, professional players, the chance to fight against the very best in the world. And yeah, many congratulations to everyone on this top 20, but especially that top 8, who we will be seeing again soon.
We for sure will. Reminder to everybody, this December 17th to 21st in Oslo, Norway, we will see those 8 players participate in the season end finals. It's playoff time here, so do get your tickets. David, it's been a ton of fun. The 4 legs, they are now in the past. We have to look back on them. What are you going to take away from the Julius Baer Generation Cup?
Well, it was a clash of generations, actually, in many of these finals. We talk about the kind of age difference, but the experience difference. Magnus Carlsen ultimately getting the job done against a younger opponent. It was Fabiano Caruana getting the job done as well, and Wesley So taking down Denis Lazovic. So in the Generation Cup, the youngsters still have a little way to go. They're taking over world chess, but not quite yet, Robert.
Well, that's a really good point. It was, I guess Alireza is no longer a teenager, but the other 2 are teenagers taking on the veterans, and it was the experienced players who were able to come out on top. So David, you know, I want to thank everybody on behalf of the both of us, all the fans who tune in each and every day, the production team that works so hard behind the scenes, and most importantly, the players, because without them, these events are not possible. They make it so much fun, whether it's endgame saving tactics from Magnus Carlsen, it's blunders, checkmates in 1, or outlasting your opponent in vicious attacking style in Armageddon. Doesn't matter how you got there, we appreciate you stopping by. So for all the players, again, thank you so much. For all the fans, we'll see you soon. Don't forget, December 17th to 21st, Oslo, Norway. Get your tickets now. But until then, we say goodbye and hope you enjoy all the chess that will come in the next few months.
Against Hikaru Nakamura, that rook on h6 is ugly AF.
No, that's it. B4. What a result. 2-0. Look at Anish. He's doing his best.
Denis Lazovic, the kid, sends home Hikaru Nakamura. Anish Giri will join his fellow 2800 club member.
Magnus needs to prove that he can hold the half point. And whoa, as soon as I say that, the wrong move from Alireza, and Magnus isn't just okay. Apparently he's winning. It is Magnus Carlsen. He needed a draw, but he gets a win. Magnus Carlsen wins the first event of the Champions Chess Tour.
Black King's coming. Vincent's not out of the woods yet. And he offers to trade the bishops.
The knight is too far. The b-pawn is coming. Magnus Carlsen knows it. He leans back for the first time in the match. He knows he's done it.
Wow, heartbreak for Vincent Kaymer. He traded off the bishops, which was so desirable the whole game.
The king goes to f3. It hides. The g-pawn cannot be hidden from that g8 square. And Magnus cannot believe it. He's so mad at himself.
Look at this beast. Look at this beast on d6, bishop to e4. He's totally winning. Magnus he knows it's over. Alireza, he's not going to miss. He did it again. Magnus Carlsen has resigned. Alireza has done the unimaginable.
Alireza Firouzja is the champion of the Chess.com Classic.
I kind of want to see bishop takes h1 though. Just that would go down in all the chess books forever for history.
Oh my god!
He didn't see it. Oh my god, it's on the board. This is once in a lifetime stuff. Fabiano on the camera, Robert, smiling. He knows he's... wow, this is immortality stuff. 18 seconds, even on the board if he survives the clock. It's over.
Push, h7. You can't go a3. Got to go back to h8. The rook slides over to h6 just in time. It's all over.
12 seconds.
g7.
There we go. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave is the winner of the CrunchLabs Masters after taking down Alireza Firouzja in the Armageddon. The h-pawn's going to cost white his knight. Arjun Erigais is going to be knocked down to the loser's bracket.
Alexander Grischuk, look at how happy he is.
He's missing moves. He's also missing moves here. There's a lot of nerves. Queen f2, check here. What happens?
The bar is going up and down like my heart rate right now. Queen f7 is a big threat, and Alireza, he resigns after e6.
Despite Alireza's clock situation, Robert, he's been fantastic today.
Resignation time, and that means we will see a rematch of Firouzja and Carlsen. Knight takes d4 is something you have to what? Bishop f5?
If he plays it, it shows he's in bang in top form here right now.
I seriously was only looking at moves like queen c7, queen b6, but Alireza Firouzja, he is in tip-top shape at the moment.
And another capture. This is maybe what Magnus has missed. Magnus is saying, what have I done? Robert, take it away. Ooh, the bar drops. Wait, what's happened here? I was about to say this should be a draw, but apparently this is a blunder from Magnus Carlsen.
I think it was just a strange decision. And oh my goodness, David, you know what's about to happen?
Oh, look at Firouzja on the camera as well. Frustrated, Robert, and it is a draw. White is still winning, but Magnus doesn't realize the white king has to run. Sprint forward.
He chose the wrong square. Yeah, F2 comes with check, the king goes back to E2, but that was a mistake. Every single obvious looking move is wrong.
Wow, the checks have continued, but no more, and Magnus Carlsen wins on time, wins the Julius Baer Generation Cup. It was a king walk, it was close. Magnus, a sigh of relief on his face, Robert, but a deserved winner in the end after an epic battle.